my mic up and Julia's mic up. Happy New Year, everybody. This is show number 796. We're here as usual at the Beach Street Yacht Club in San Francisco's beautiful Marina District. I'm here with my co-host and Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, Julia Vatican, keeping tabs on all of us. And we've got folks joining via Zoom as well. 3 people are on, looking very festive indeed. Upper left corner, Vice Commodore Claire Harrington of the New York Yacht Club. Upper right corner in his RORC regalia, white coat and all, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin. And front and center in the bottom is Christopher Gillingham in Leamington. Happy New Year's Eve to all of you, and those of you down under, Happy New Year's Day, where you're already celebrating it in Australia, New Zealand, and points west of them. John Mangino, Happy Merry Happy. Christian Price, where it is. She's at the Moth Worlds in New Zealand, having hopped over there with her husband. Hello, Christian. Bob Steele, here's normally in SoCal. He's an Aussie. Here with us, Happy New Year's Eve. Ed Worley here in the Bay Area now, or up near Sac, more properly. Rick Bannerl, happy New Year's Eve from clouding up 51-degree Bergen County in New Jersey, that high-end part of the New Jersey. Alan Long in Belize. Julie, have we ever had somebody on from Belize before?
Not that I remember.
Not that I recall either. Welcome to all of you, Steve Gruber, Ed Worley, and more. This is our New Year's Eve show, our celebration. We're going to talk about not only the nominees. We're not going to name the person of the year. We're going to name the group of the year today, and we're going to name the 6 finalist nominees that our team of Super Fozy, on which they have been working. Is that the right way to put it, grammarian madam?
Of course.
On which they have been working.
Terrific.
Okay. I don't want you to think poorly of me. So that's what we're going to do later in the show. Today's last leg, we will announce the group of the year. We've expanded our offering here to not just person of the year, but group of the year, because there was so much discussion among the Super Fozy, the gang that was working on all of your nominations from just the Fozy and the people who watch the show, that we've added a category called Group of the Year. And now we have 6 nominees for Person of the Year. We'll name those in the final leg at the end of the show.
Great.
And then we will announce the Person of the Year after a little more voting is going on our 800th show on 2 weeks from today, Tuesday, the 14th of January.
Wow.
Did I confuse everybody, or was that clear? What are we celebrating today? Not only the Zoom, by the way, anyone else wants to join the show, wants to join Claire and Andrew and Christopher on the Zoom, there is the Zoom code. It's the same old code we always use, 267-220-6570. The passcode is 1851. Not required, but preferred nautical black tie. Julia, you look very elegant in your green starboard
Yes.
dress, frock, and your white. Oh, hey, that reminds me.
What?
I've got it in the control room. I left my gold scarf. I'll get it during a video.
Uh-oh.
I need my gold scarf
You
that
do.
we've traditionally worn.
You do. I got in the mood because I woke up to midnight in Sydney with the bridge.
Did you watch all that? Good
Yes.
for you. You're a better person than I. I slept until almost 6 o'clock this morning. But I did watch the University of Michigan beat Alabama.
Really? Oh.
But let's get on with what we are celebrating today. Julia, what are we celebrating? Shall we ask the Zoomers? What are we celebrating? There's your clue.
The New Year's Eve.
Not really. Close, but no cigar, Christopher. Julia, last chance. Claire, Andrew, what are we
National Champagne Day.
Oh, she got it!
Oh, hey.
Well done.
Brilliant.
It is indeed National Champagne Day. Pop open a bottle of bubbly to add some sparkle to your day, or organize a tasting event to sample different French brands and fruity flavors.
Yes.
Just like some of us
It's
here.
It's a French plot.
You have champagne there, Andrew?
I do actually, yes.
It's what time for you? 21:07, 9:07 p.m.
Yeah, it's quite a civilized time to start drinking champagne.
There's
Christopher,
nothing wrong with drinking champagne for breakfast.
Absolutely not.
and Christopher
Um,
Gillingham. Well, he's at night in London, and Christopher Gillingham. It's 21:07 for you in Livingston, right?
It is indeed. We're just dodging the storms outside, and the rest of the gang is sitting down to dinner. So I'm just nipping up and just tuning in for a few minutes.
Are we a bad influence?
Oh, definitely.
It's quite
but a
windy
good
here.
influence.
Commodore Harrington, it's 4 in the afternoon, 16:07 there. You've had a busy day, have you not? Where have you been?
I have.
Where have you
It's
been,
tea
Claire,
time
today?
here. What's that?
Where have you been? Where all have you been today?
Today, well, I started out in Newport, Rhode Island, and then I spent some time on Martha's Vineyard, and then back to Newport, and now I'm back in Greenwich. So I put on a few miles today.
Now, you all
Wow.
think that she's just a humble organ. Somebody said to me this morning via
Yeah,
text, well,
yeah.
you know, I keep portraying Claire as
A musician.
a humble musician, humble organ player. And she's actually a hell of a good yacht racer, a leader in the sport. She
Right.
is also an pilot, a licensed
Yes.
private pilot. And she flew out to Martha's Vineyard this morning. Why do I know? Because she sent me pictures. I didn't put them in the show. And she asked me, can you identify? She was flying over an island in the
Yeah.
Elizabeth Islands. And I happened to know where it was. And I think I surprised you, didn't I, Claire, when I knew where?
Actually, I would have thought less of you if you didn't come up with that.
It's the
Well done.
I guess the westerly most of those islands. It's called Cuttyhunk, or what
Correct.
we used to call Cuddly Hunk. If you're sailing from Newport to the east and out toward Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, south of the Cape Cod, the first one you encounter is Cuttyhunk. And back in the day, Claire, when I lived in Newport, Leslie, my wife, and I used to race our J24 at it was our 4th of July fleet, J24 fleet cruise out to Cuttyhunk and into that Cuttyhunk pond that I could see on your aerial photo
Mhm.
from your plane. Were you flying alone and taking pictures
I was.
and
I was.
texting me?
And texting. I'm going to get in trouble.
I sailed a J24 through Woods Hole at night. That wasn't terribly sensible,
Oh,
but
that's
but I
not a
was
good
young and foolish.
That sounds
Yeah.
about as frisky as us. Now we said this was back in 30 years ago, maybe almost 40 years ago, Claire. We sailed out there with nothing, with double-handed or triple-handed, because you're going to stay in the J24
Yeah.
overnight in Cuttyhunk in that little pond, and you can't a J24. You can't have a cast of thousands on that boat. So the only thing we went out there with was a VHF radio. This is before GPS, So we go out to what was then the Newport Tower, the old Newport Tower.
The Buzzards Bay Tower?
Well, no, we went to the Newport Tower.
Oh,
This is before you were born. You don't remember the Newport Tower, and we got.
I
and
don't.
Well, there was a wooden structure out there for years and years,
Yeah.
navigational aid that had a big
Yep.
foghorn on it and some radio antenna, and it was the entrance to Narragansett Bay. We went out in our little J24s in pea soup fog,
Oh,
took that tower to port, went across, and it's a good southwester where it's really blow. We're planing on the J24.
Yeah.
We actually sawed through a spinnaker sheet at one point.
Oh.
I mean, it's hard to believe. And I don't know, what is it, 20, 30 miles across? How far is it from?
Yeah, about that, 25, 30. Yeah,
And so
most, yeah.
we go over to the Buzzards Tower, which I don't know if that tower is still there, or if that's a buoy.
It
now.
is.
So we
It
go to
is
the
still there.
Buzzards Tower, leave that, the Buzzards Bay Tower, leave that to port. We still can't see a damn thing. Every now and there's a few other boats in the race. And we every now and then see another. We're talking by VHF to our fellow J24s, but really hanging on for dear life. We're in a 25 knot southwesterly, just 2 or 3 of us on the boat. Turn the Buzzard Tower, go to some buoy, and then dead wrecking our way into a finish line at Cuddly Hunk, as we used to call it, Cuttyhunk Pond. And it was the stupidest thing I think I've ever done in my yacht racing career.
That is insane.
It was.
It can be wicked out there. It really
Exactly.
can.
Well, we
And
knew the
Well,
forecast. Go ahead,
and
Andrew.
Well, the current through Woods Hole, and it isn't a straight passage. And I was trying to do back bearings because we'd done Edgar Town Race Week, as it was then, and we had no navigational aids. It was 1981. We had a compass and I think an echo sounder, and we bounced off at least one rock. And
Yes.
there was a little voice that said "other side," which I think was probably St. Peter. Um, my wife hasn't been very keen on night sailing ever since.
Well, this was the same era. You were doing that in the same era that we're sailing our little J-24s out to Cuttyhunk, and then of course we spent a couple nights there, Claire. It's a fabulous little spot, as you know.
is.
They bring you fish out in the morning, and the morning paper, and a hot, coffee from one of the coffee shops, and the kids are coming out in their little dories and trying to sell these things to you. Good summer job, I suppose. And then, it cleared up. It was nice, and then we sailed back that day or the next day, I can't remember, into a strong southwesterly and beat all the way back
Mhm,
uphill
mhm.
to Newport. It
Yeah.
was good fun back in the late 70s, early 80s, about the same time Andrew was going through Woods Hole in it. You
We-
said in a J-24, Andrew?
Yep. And then we went through the canal and sailed all the way back to Marblehead.
Nice.
Wow.
Well, speaking
So
of,
you'll be,
go ahead,
sorry.
Claire.
Yeah, Tom, you'll be pleased to know that Cuttyhunk the first time I went there was probably in the late 80s in a Marlin 23 from Haight, believe it or not. But anyway, the good news is that it has not changed very much. It's very much the same as you would remember it, which is kind of fun.
Well, I was debating. I will also admit that I got some help. I double checked because you sent me that aerial photo of the pond.
Yep.
I'm going to show it on my camera one here. There is on the bottom shot. Claire,
Is that the picture I took?
that's
this
the
morning?
picture you took this morning. You
Oh,
can sort of see
okay.
the pond in there,
Yep.
and that's out the left seat of the plane looking down onto Cuttyhunk, right? And then
Right.
up the way is Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket and so on, right?
Well, Martha's Vineyard would be more to the right. That's the rest of the chain of the Elizabeth Islands.
Elizabeth Island.
Noshawn and,
Well,
well,
so
yeah.
I'm so impressed because a lot of you I didn't realize Claire is a licensed pilot, and she, flies around to keep your gaskets lubricated. You do have to take your plane out every now and then to
Yeah.
keep things lubed up, right?
Actually, to be completely correct, I'm a commercial pilot.
You
So-
are?
Aha.
I am.
Good.
And not only that, I'm a flight instructor and an instrument instructor. So
So you're instrument rated.
I am. And
Holy cow, Julia. We not
I know,
only,
right?
we not only have Yacht Club royalty in our presence. but-
Well, I'm proud of you.
and Andrew, about the same time that this is years since then, but in the 90s or in the noughts, there's a certain yacht club, esteemed yacht club on Martha's Vineyard called Vineyard Haven Yacht
Mhm.
Club. Your late husband was a commodore, right, Claire?
Edgartown.
Edgartown, yeah. I beg your pardon. There's Vineyard Haven Yacht Club. The more prestigious yacht club is Edgartown Yacht Club.
Edgartown.
The late
yeah.
great Walter
I remember
Cronkite.
going to it used, I think they only do a weekend now, but they did a whole week and had a ball, and it was all very smart. It was great.
Edgartown Race Week.
Edgartown. Yeah. It's abbreviated now. It's just a few days and culminates in the Round the Island race, of course, which is exactly the same distance as Cows, which is a great,
Wow.
60 mile-ish.
Yep, exactly. Or just shy,
Yeah.
56 and change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
about the
Claire,
same.
not to belabor this, but then you sent
Yeah.
me this photo. You're on final approach.
I know.
Huh?
That was really bad.
You're on final approach. Your text says, where is it? Stand by, landing.
He's texting me and I'm thinking, oh God, I can't say. So I did a voice thing. It said, stand by, landing. And then I snapped the photograph.
Oh, it's classic.
I thought
I
you
think, yeah,
did it.
texting while driving a car is illegal. What about when you're flying an airplane?
Oh,
Well,
it's safe. It's fine.
if you tell the New York Yacht Club secretary that I'm wearing the New York Yacht Club regalia, even though I'm no longer a member, I resigned during the pandemic, can't be a member of St. Francis and New York.
Oh, he's
I've
got
even
the
got
cufflinks.
I've even got your cufflinks in your honor, Commodore.
Mhm.
Wow.
But if you do that, I'm going to text or call the FAA and show them your text.
Okay. All right. Touche.
We got
Touche.
Graham Sweeney showing up here on the Zoom rather. Again, if anybody wants to join this madness, 267-220-6570. It is our annual New Year's, well, not always on New Year's Eve do we have a Tuesday or Friday show, but we did today.
Yep.
And as Claire correctly pointed out, we are celebrating National Champagne Day. Pop open a bottle and add some sparkle to your day. And of course, we're celebrating New Year's Eve here. We're celebrating New Year's Day for those of you down under. As was the case, due to their careful tending the vineyards, monks were responsible for the appearance of champagne in the world. In fact, one nearly blind monk from the Champagne region of France is credited with discovering the process of wine fermentation as it relates to the weather. Cold weather, warm spring. While it first seemed like a mistake, it turned out to be
Delicious.
delicious. The year was 1697. This monk's name was
Dom Perignon.
Dom Perignon. And again, well done. There it is. Andrew McIrvin gets that right. Dom Pierre Perignon for the record, and some champagne is still named after him, you think?
Yeah.
After
It
him to
is.
this day. Now, Andrew and Christopher, and we got a Brit on here too, Graham Sweeney, who's coming on. Some English folks also lay claim, this is for you, I dedicate this slide to you, to the invention of this bubbly wine, stating that the process was found 35 years prior, in 1662, in the Cotswolds. This is when a scientist named, have you ever heard of this guy, Andrew?
No, this is a new one on me.
Christopher, have you, Christopher Gillingham, have you heard of this guy, Christopher Merritt?
Likewise, new one on me.
He apparently wrote down his process of putting bubbles into wine by the addition of sugar, but whoever gets credit for it, it's a delightful addition that the world is happy to enjoy. And I see Claire now coming up with some champagne as well. Claire, speaking of Dom Perignon,
Oh,
Dom
there's Dom
Perignon.
Perignon.
Wow. That is the Dom
what
Perignon.
year is
Oh,
that,
that's-
Claire?
That's the real deal. Sorry?
What year is that?
Oh, gosh. Hang on.
You can tell we rehearsed this. We planned this out. We've been planning this for weeks.
2013.
Was that a good year? Who knows?
Oh, yeah.
They're all good years.
Anything, yeah.
Boy,
That's-
it's a good year.
That's the
That's
real
very
deal.
expensive stuff. That's very high class.
Don't
I'm
you-
just an
don't you
ordinary-
Don't
I'm
you
an
have a
ordinary
bottle
Bollinger.
under your desk?
Say again?
Don't you have a bottle under your desk?
No, I don't. We have a bottle of Alan Embley's bourbon cream for Julia's coffee, and we should probably do that pour. We are too poor here at Sailing Illustrated to do champagne. Although Julia's got some. Actually, I've got a couple bottles. You want?
I do.
But we're gonna.
All right. Well,
It's
we'll salute.
too early for us to drink champagne.
I think we should put in a word for what's happening in southern England, because it's the only good thing I've heard about climate change, and that is that more and more of Kent and Sussex is being laid down to vine, and even large chunks of Kent are being bought by the French, because as the temperature, it's exactly the same chalk soil in Kent as it is down in Epernay, where most of the champagne's made.
Mhm.
So that Taittinger and various of the other big French houses are buying up chunks of England and planting vines, because as the temperature increases, it's becoming a perfectly good place to produce. We're not allowed to call it champagne, but English sparkling wine method champenoise. So there are Nye Timber, Chapel Down. There's some really quite big vineyards now producing very good quality sparkling wine in England.
Mhm.
Well,
Nice.
Champagne, National Champagne Day, and we can extend that to be World Champagne Day, I think. Although there is such a day, I think, in July of all. Yeah, Steve Atkins correcting me. It's the Brenton Reef Tower, or it used to be, and now it's just a nav buoy out there. Not the Newport Tower. Groover is also correcting me. Thank you, you all. Gordon Smith, this conversation is rich with naughty joke possibilities, entering holes in the dark. Oh, Julia, that's a finger wag.
Uh-oh.
Huh?
Mm.
Players of organs large and small. Gordon, that's a finger wag, Julia. And islands named by the Reverend Spooner. Promising start to the evening. That's our official sound effect for when somebody like Gordon Smith, well-deserved finger wag. Ryman's checking in from Cape Town. Happy New Year to you, sir. What time is it in Cape Town? 23:22. So he's during the show. We'll raise a glass to him in about 40 minutes in Cape Town when he will cross into the new year. There's John Keogh, also from Newport, Rhode Island. He'll know about all those old towers. Groover saying he did a Block Island race week on a J24. Somebody also above in the comments said they did a Buzzards Bay race. It used to be a week. It's now just a 3-day event, isn't it, Claire? Buzzards Bay race week is the first weekend
Buzzards
of August.
Bay Regatta.
Buzzards Bay Regatta, the first weekend of
Yeah,
August.
that's 2 or 3 days now. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of falling apart,
Oh,
sadly.
that's too bad.
Yeah.
Well, one last thing about Claire while I've got her in the screen. I did get a card from Claire by FedEx yesterday afternoon,
Wow.
and it says, I gotta get the right card. It says, Tom, may you always be prepared. Prepared for what, Claire? XO Claire, and that card, with that card came the keychain harmonica.
Oh, yes.
Julia?
Oh, I love it.
The keychain harmonica. We make all these musical jokes of late on the show.
Yeah.
And if you all don't mind, I'm going to open it and maybe even
Play it.
play it.
Whee!
I haven't played a harmonica in a,
Can you play Old Lang Syne?
Good
I
idea.
don't know. We're going to try. I'm unbuckling this. I should be doing it on camera. This is quite a deal, but it's, as you can see, it is on a keychain, so you can always be prepared, eh, Claire?
That's right.
Right.
And you
In
put
an
that.
emergency.
It's better than a key fob.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Right.
You can call for help if necessary. Ah,
Oh my God.
Bad.
No. Da da da. Harmonica's a little short.
Well done. Bravo.
I,
The noise that came out
bravo.
the trenches, eh?
I haven't played a harmonica in, gosh, I don't know when, Claire, but there it
Oh.
is. There's
I'm
Graham Sweeney.
impressed.
Look at Graham Sweeney. We got Hagrid in
Yeah.
a tie.
Nice.
Graham, how are
Nice.
you?
Really?
I'm fine, Tom. It would have been a bow tie, but I tried my tux on and I had a major embarrassment with myself. It doesn't bloody fit. But there's my New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Well, this is nautical bow tie, nautical black tie. I've got my blazer on. I didn't put my regular black tie top on because I didn't have time to get too dull. This is a real tying of a bow tie. I learned at New York Yacht Club, Claire, a long time ago that one could not wear a fake dickie or tie
Oh my
at
gosh.
the New York Yacht Club. Is that a real tied tie, Andrew?
Oh, yeah. Want me to untie it?
No,
Shane?
I believe you.
Oh.
You look so elegant. And I
Very
really appreciate this, Claire.
Oh, good. I'm glad. You'll have a whole year to practice for next year.
Probably the next time I play it will be next year.
Right.
yes.
Now, not to be outdone, we also have a card from across the pond. Somebody put a sticker over it. Happy Christmas from across the pond. And it says, please find enclosed a gift from Jane and myself. They do say to get ahead in life, get a hat. But I can't, something about the sailing club cap. And this, of course, is from the Gillinghams in Leamington. Fair winds and following seas for 2025 from Christopher and Jane Gillingham. And Christopher's on here. Christopher, tell us about the Ashlet Sailing Club.
Well, we're a very small club just on the mouth of Southampton Water, tucked inside Calshot Spit. There's about 200 members. We're very tidal, so we spend a lot of time in the mud, and it's just a really friendly club, just good people, and no aspirations to do anything fancy racing. It's just good fun.
Well,
Sounds great.
thank you for the hat. I will wear it with. I better take it off because we have a rule here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, and so it's the same rule we have at St. Francis Yacht Club. Gentlemen will not wear caps, right, Julia?
Right?
Gentlemen shall not wear a cap inside the clubhouse. And I think that's a sexist rule, Julie, that's got to go. Christopher, what do you think of a rule like that at a yacht club? We have that same rule here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, but women can wear a cap, a hat inside.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to get members through the door, and you've got to move with the times. We had that at the previous club, but you've got to be inclusive. And if people want to wear caps and it gets them behind the bar and it gets them sailing, so be it.
Claire, what
Embrace
do
it.
you think? Should
Oh, I disagree. I think we need to be crutonic and ornery and
Yes.
non-welcoming and throw everyone out.
Speaking
Seriously.
of which, what's the dress code now in the bar at New York Yacht Club? It used to be business suit and tie, and I think it's been relaxed.
At 44th Street or
Yeah,
at
44th.
at 44th Street. Yeah. So it's jacket during the day. You can get away with no tie during the day, but tie it in the evening. And
Okay.
never jeans. No blue jeans ever on any part of the property in either place.
Well, that's
44th
correct.
Street
Yeah.
or Harbor
Like
Court.
that chess player.
The what?
Yeah. Didn't they relax?
Oh, yes.
Chucked him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Didn't they relax that rule and let that guy back in? He left, and then
Yeah.
he came back, and they let him come in his jeans.
I believe that's right.
I think that's what happened.
Mhm.
Okay, one more thing, Claire, is that I want to say, because I see him on here, I did double check with Rick Bannerow. I figured he, being the denizen of Long Island Sound and the Elizabeth Islands and the Cape, doing all the photography that he does, I sent him your image as you were flying over Cuddly Hunk, and I asked him to ID that photo. And I said, I believe it's CH, and I don't mean Claire Harrington. It's Cuddly Hunk. And he said, yeah, I think it is. So I did cheat.
So you got help.
Now,
I took a photograph on the way back too, but I don't think I sent you them.
well, so you've been at Martha's Vineyard, on Martha's Vineyard, you would say. Then you've
Mhm.
been to Newport. Then
Mhm.
now you're back at home in Greenwich, Connecticut.
Right.
And you said the expression was, it was a Chamber of Commerce day, but you pilots say
Kavu.
CAVU. Julia, do you
CAVU.
know what CAVU stands for?
No.
Claire?
Ceiling and visibility unlimited.
Ah, yes. Okay.
J. Frederick Bland is on. He's saying James Bond's favorite vintage, 1946. Bond drinks 2 bottles in Moonraker and spikes one with Benzedrine. In 53, Bond and Jill Masterson drink this vintage in Goldfinger. 55, Bond orders this vintage for himself in Domino and Thunderball, and also drinks it in Dr. No. 57, and on and on and on.
Some people have too much knowledge.
Or are too good at Googling.
Yes.
Okay, Stingray, pleasure without champagne is purely artificial. That's a quote from Oscar Wilde. You all look so posh.
Indeed.
Felice Anno Nuevo, I guess it is in Italian, right?
Feliciano.
Feliciano was a singer. Jose Feliciano was a guitar player.
All right.
I think
Mhm.
it's Felice in Italian. That's how that's pronounced.
That could well be.
And okay, lots of we got to go back. Bravo, add a keychain banjo, and you're all set. Tom Ogletree, his thing. Freddie Bland, Boomer Bland is saying, isn't a harmonica in the same family as the bagpipes, banjo, and accordion? And
You bet.
of course, why do you think she sent this to me? Right up there. Whoa, such talent. I've never, ever played that song on this bloody harmonica. I haven't played the harmonica in years.
I'm amazed.
Well, I want to hear Claire play the organ. Okay. I bet John Emmett can play harmonica, but only while walking. Look at all the comments.
Yeah.
When did they put bleachers inside the yacht club? Hats off. Yeah, Clayton Emily, well done. Bobby Steele, Annapolis to Newport on Dora with the late, great Lynn Williams and pea soup fog from the tower at Chesapeake. The next site, he says, was the Brenton Reef Tower. Pre-GPS, no radar,
Mhm.
old school. Yeah, it's scary,
Mhm.
but it's amazing how well how well we all did that. Can Claire play Auld Lang Syne for us on her nearest instrument? Stingray is asking.
Oh,
Do you have an
no.
instrument near
I don't.
you?
There's nothing close. Honestly, nothing close by. Not here. Sorry.
Alan Long knew that Cavoo is clear and visibility unlimited. Fog Machine, that's Lance Burke here in the Bay Area. 007 might have been a secret agent, but he was well known to bartenders the world
Yeah.
over. And Clayton Embley is saying Tom Ogletree's mother, really? So you know Tom Ogletree? Yeah, of course you would never allow us to wear hats inside of St. Paul's school.
Mhm.
Now there's a proper prep school.
Mhm.
Okay, shall we carry on here? We are celebrating National Champagne Day, appropriately enough. And we're also celebrating all of you, the FOSI, whether you're regulars here on the show or you're contributors via Patreon. We appreciate that very much. And especially the super FOSI who appear on the show with frequency. And they're the ones that are doing the voting on this Person of the Year and Group of the Year. And they have been hard at work. And we appreciate all of their efforts. And we'll report again on all that in the last leg at the end of this show. And no, Ed Worley, we do not need to get Tom a kazoo to complete the band. Julia, we can get you a kazoo.
I probably have one, but you wouldn't want to listen to it.
I have one. We at the Beach Street Yacht Club here,
Yeah.
Claire, and when you're not here, we got to make Claire a member when she gets here. Andrew's a member. We got to get the Gillinghams here and make them a member.
Right.
And Graham
Yeah.
Sweeney. We get them here to make them members. But we have a box of musical instruments here, tambourine and maracas and those little eggs. What do you call those eggs, Claire, that you click and clack if you're in a
Castanets.
castanets? Thank you. And we got a whole box so that when people are here, we have a cajon so you can play drums on the cajon. We have all that stuff here.
On the what?
Cajon, not cajones. Not cajones. Oh my God. There's a finger wag, Julia. Not cajones, Claire. A cajon. When I get my scarf, when we go to a movie, I'll go rescue the cajon. It's out in the America's Cup Lounge with all the other musical instruments. It's a box on which you sit,
Mhm.
and it's got some little snares inside of it. So, what a filthy mind!
It's getting
You thought I was
worse.
talking about cajones, and I was talking about cajons.
I think you should stop now.
By the way, if you're watching this show on replay, I've had nothing to drink. Julia's
Nor have I.
she's just starting on her Clayton Embley bourbon cream, and the rest of the gang are just sipping on. What are you sipping on, Claire? Nothing at all
I'm
champagne.
sipping on bubbly.
on bubbly.
So it has fizz in it, but it's not very exciting.
Gordon Smith said he'd buy a ticket to that recital to see you play the cajon, Claire. Andrew McIrvin's got a cocktail. I think that looks like Graham Sweeney's got the guy's in the UK and
I
Scotland.
need a top up actually. I just my
Here you
slave
go.
hasn't topped me up,
Here you go.
so I'm going to have to
I'll
go
open her up.
and do something.
Now here's
I'll
a
open it up.
newcomer, a name I haven't seen. Sohail Latif is watching from Pakistan. Julia, have we ever had somebody watching from Pakistan?
We have, but not by that name.
Sohail, welcome to you. And it looks like a guy. And is it New Year's Eve in Pakistan by now? Let's see, in Perth, it would be. It's 5:30 in the morning on Wednesday morning in Perth, and they're not much further west than Perth. So I think it is, 2 or 3 in the morning there. So Sohail Latif, welcome to you. Lots of people signing in for this crazy show.
No, this
Ed
is
Worley asking, does it hurt to pound on your cajon? Julia?
no.
Julia? That's another finger wag.
And if anybody just happened to come in on this conversation, they would be.
God.
Oh.
Stick to blowing your harmonica, Tom.
Say again.
Stick to blowing that harmonica of yours.
That's right.
I pity the people who are watching this in replay and wondering what are these guys
Oh,
and
I
gals
know.
doing?
Funny.
Are
Andrew,
cajones
what do you have
a-
there?
Or a bolly.
Oh,
Bolly.
good for you.
Say it again,
Are
Andrew. It
cajones
didn't switch. I got
is
you
that
all on
percussion
speaker
instrument?
view. Andrew, show us that bottle again and speak up so that it goes on to speaker view.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's Bollinger.
Oh, Bolly.
I think is my favorite. I mean, it's not as smart as Dom Perignon, but as a non-vintage champagne, I think it's the best.
Graham, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a good whiskey with a little bit of ginger ale in it. A nice.
Oh,
Oh,
no! Oh,
Yeah. Well, it's not
Terrible
it's not
crime.
real good whiskey because I don't do that in public. But no, it's good enough. It's Highland Park, made in Orkney.
oh yeah, that's all right.
It's
But
a
I'm not
good.
sure I put ginger in it.
No, it's the only one I do. I have to get rid of it somehow.
If you're just joining us, this is not a sailing show with a drinking habit. It's a
No.
drinking show with a sailing habit.
right.
And lots of comments. And this gentleman, Sohail Latif, is saying Happy New Year from Pakistan. He's really enjoying us all. Well, we'll get into sailing. Let's get into sailing here before we go too much further off the tracks, off the rails, and do a wrap up as promised for the Rolex Sydney to Hobart Yacht Race's beautiful photo of the start by my old friend whom you would know well. Both many of you would know Carlo Berlanghi from Italia has been the team photographer for all of the Italian challenges, I think, the America's Cup challenges over the many years. Just one of the great photographers in our beloved sport. This photo of the start from him, I thought that was a good way to start. The
Now, the
boxing
yearbook I send you, it's nearly all Carlo.
Yeah,
The pictures
is that
in the Maxi yearbook.
is that your Maxi yearbook?
Yeah, I think 90% to Carlo.
Yeah. He's fabulous. Daniel Forster's another one. Julia, how's that? Show Clayton Embley that color of your coffee has gotten darker with the bourbon cream in it.
It's looks like cream in my coffee.
Look at the grin on Andrew's face. Push your mic
I'm not-
up in front of your mouth, Julia, please.
All right, here we go.
Andrew, you were
I've
going to
got-
say?
No, I wasn't saying anything else.
Okay, we'll go back to the Rolex.
I'm still trying to recover from the thought of putting ginger in malt whiskey. If it had been a blend, I could have just about tolerated it.
Andrew, they'll hang me for it, not you. Don't worry.
Anna Bergqvist in Sweden is saying Happy New Year, peaceful 2025. And thank you, Anna. We always appreciate it when you come on. And again, we'll try to get going here on the start
Yeah,
of the
this is-
I'm gonna
79th. and the
head
wrap.
off and
Huh?
wish you all. Sorry, I'm going to head off and wish you all a happy new year. I've got to crack on
I
with the next
really
course.
like your jacket, sir.
Yes.
Christopher, that's fabulous.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. It's been a fantastic year, and I'm looking forward to next year and more Sailing Illustrated.
We appreciate it.
Nice to
your-
see you.
Your
All the
many
best.
contributions.
Cheers.
Happy New Year,
Regards-
Christy.
Happy New Year
Regards
all.
to your family,
Happy New
Christopher.
Year, Chris.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye bye.
Okay.
Cheers.
There really is a wrap here for the Rolex Sydney to Hobart, which has indeed ended. As you all know, and as we reported last Friday morning, Law Connect was first to finish. They won in 1 day, 13 hours, 35 minutes and change. And Bravo Zulu to them, the first sailors home in 2024. Sydney to Hobart have paid tribute to their comrades lost at sea. They muted their celebration. They did not celebrate with the usual champagne spray and the champagne opening, but they did a fabulous job. This is the team that has now won it 3 times. They won it last year, and then some years ago also won it overall. Sydney businessman Christian Beck there on the right, his 100-footer Law Connect claim line honors at 2:35 a.m. this past Saturday, with their somber crew reigning in celebrations out of respect for the 2 sailors who died during that race. Here's another Carlos shot, this again of the second place boat. This is the second to finish. We were pretty sure they would be second to finish. In fact, they may have even finished while we were on the show Friday. I don't remember now. That is Celestial. That's the VO70, the Volvo former Volvo Ocean Race 70-footer. And it's owned by the Commodore of the club, by Sam Haines, the Commodore of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia. And with line honors decided, attention now turns to the contenders for the Tattersall Cup, awarded to the overall winner. That's handicap winner of the race every year. Sam Haines, Commodore of the race organizer, the CYCA, sailed his charter. He chartered the boat, Celestial V70, to second over the line, and he also has won on IRC uncorrected. The team finished at 05:10, so we would not have been quite off. Yeah, I guess we would have been off the air after 1 day, 16 hours, 10 minutes, 20 seconds last Friday of racing, and is looking solid. At that time, they were looking solid to win his second Sydney Hobart uncorrected time, having taken the mantle in 2022 with his TP52 of the same name, Celestial, which also finished second overall in 2021. There is his team. Andrew, do you know, I looked all over for names of his team and couldn't find them. You must know many of these gentlemen.
No, I don't actually. I think they're all locals, except I think he's got. He's got Pete Cumming and Paul Stambridge. Yes, I can see them. Yeah, right in the middle.
Which
right,
ones are
just
they?
The chap with the beard is Paul Stambridge, who's very well known. No, that's Pete Cumming.
Pete.
Yeah.
And that's Paul. Yeah.
That's Paul,
And they are
that's
both
Pete.
very, very well known pro sailors who've been at it for a long. Well, particularly Paul has done God knows how many round the world races and everything else. And Pete pops up everywhere.
Graham, do you
Maxi
recognize? Excuse me, Andrew. Graham, do you recognize some of those folks?
Yeah, I recognise Pete because I was his wedding photographer.
No, what an amazing community we have.
Uh-huh.
Julia, you
Yes.
never know where Graham's going. Next thing you know, he'll pop up at my funeral. I'll be the funeral photographer.
If they want pictures, yeah.
Of a stiff, I'm not going to have an open casket.
I might come out of retirement for that.
I think Pete says he's done the race
Tongue in
about
cheek,
6
Tom.
times.
6
And
times.
I think he's done it 6 times, and he this is the first time he's won it. A couple of times the boats were broken, which seems to happen quite often. So he's finished it before, but this is the first time he's won it, so he's very happy.
That's terrific.
He's been posting that.
One other question. Baton Rouge is saying that's Baton Kennon down in Charleston normally. Charleston, not West Virginia, Charleston in near Savannah. He's saying, I'm surprised by the separation of the Super Maxis to the Maxis. Yeah, there was quite a distance, but those Super Maxis beat the Westerly for the most part, and they surfed down the coast, right, Andrew?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure what he means by Super Maxi and Maxi, but Super Maxis to me are over 100 foot, and there aren't any of those because they're not allowed to enter. But I think he means sort of the sort of sub 80 foot is what he's meaning. And yeah, I think, well, really, there weren't very many this year. When you think a whole bunch of them dropped out early on, like Comanche. So there were only 3 really big boats that were coming in at the end. The rest, you're looking back at the next batch, are all TP52s, that sort of size.
Andrew, you're the Secretary General of the International Maxi Association, so nobody better qualified than you. You're making, or at least proposing, these rules and then pushing them through. What today is a maxi? What is a pocket maxi or something? What are the other term references? And what's a super maxi?
It's very boring, but I'll try to do it quickly. Anything over 60 foot is a maxi because 60 to 80 foot used to be a mini maxi. The problem is then the 72s came along, going a lot faster than a lot of boats that were over 80 foot. So we changed the classification from length to performance. So they're in performance bands. So they're now in 5 performance bands, and it's not entirely related to length. So that means that you're racing boats like for like on speed and performance. And that means we've got rid of the concept of mini maxi and maxi. So they're all maxis. They're maxi 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over 100 foot, they're super maxis.
Okay, so that's
and they tend to do a different sort of racing. They do the kangaroo start racing, the sort of bucket type racing.
at St. Bart's and so on. And
But we have a class of, for instance, our major event in Porto-Cervo, we still have a super maxi class as well.
and this 100-foot is 100 on the water line.
No, that's 100. It's hull length, which doesn't
Oh.
include the bowsprit.
LOA not
So
including the
it-
bowsprit.
Yeah, LH now they've changed it. length.
LH
Yeah,
length of the
don't
hull.
blame me, blame World Sailing.
LH meaning length of hull.
Yeah, it's LOA doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, for God's sake, we're ruining the sport.
Well,
And
it's exactly the same. It's like, you know, I'm a doctor, and anatomy hasn't changed over the centuries much. But every now and again, they have a conference and change the names of things because they've got to have something to do. So that there are quite a lot of anatomical things that have had the names changed in my lifetime for no apparently good reason.
okay. Well, speaking of that, Stingray is saying, ready, Julia?
Yeah.
He's saying, who really decided that performance matters more than length?
It's finally been decided.
Julia, give him the finger
No,
wag.
I'm glad to
you-
have it.
You agree with him?
Glad to have it.
Out of the box. Is my audio better? Thanks for the tip that I was a little low there on my. I can see. I can see that. We'll make a further adjustment on my mic. Get me up. There we go. Is that better? Okay. Nope. Thank you for that. In any event, so many people judge others by length. I'm a doctor. Trust me, Peter Stevenson is. Not Julia. This group is out of control today, Claire.
It is.
You can
know,
give a
right?
finger wag to that.
Well, I want to know
yeah,
if they've changed the name of Cajones, anatomy department.
I'm going to get the Cajone and bring it in here during one of our not commercial breaks, but during one of our videos. Okay, so that's the overall winner. CYCA Commodore Sam Haynes and Celestial Crew. He is beloved by at least Christian and Davey Price and others down in Sydney. Everyone speaks very highly of him. Sam Haynes announced on winning for the second time, and with just one. Sam Haynes announced the provisional overall winner of the announced as, I think they meant, this is from their press release, of the 2024 Sydney Hobart. Never dreamed he would hold the Tattersall Cup in his hands again after selling his TP52 Celestial late this year.
Mm-hmm.
But a mid-December charter of Willow, that Volvo Open 70 and renamed, was owned by Jim Cooney and Samantha Grant, two of the nicest people in the sport, made his target a reality. Commodore Haynes won the 2022 Rolex Sydney Hobart after finishing runner-up in 2021 on the losing end of a protest. We all remember that.
Mhm.
What he didn't know at the time he chartered Willow this year was that the weather would play right into the hands of the yacht and his dedicated crew for this year's race. Quote, I always wanted to sail a Volvo 70 and I wanted to do the race as a Commodore. So when the chance came up, I took it, Commodore Haynes said. I am pleased that I chartered this boat not knowing what the weather would be at the time. It was perfect weather for this boat, yada, yada, yada. He conceded, however, it was a tough race, plenty of wind, plenty of waves. And I just, again, he's such a highly regarded guy. I'm going to go a little longer with his quotes. On winning for a second time and with just one race in between, the Sydney veterinarian, he's a vet, admitted, quote, it does have a different feel about it, this race. The loss of life of two competitors, we are mindful of that. My thoughts are with the families. And those yachts that suffered damage and had to retire, among them URM, who, as you all know, they dropped their rig early in the race, Anthony and David Johnston. They would have been one of our main rivals in the conditions we received, along with Wild Thing 100. The weather was right for those boats, and I know Wild Thing had things go wrong in the race, but they still finished up top three, and indeed they were third to finish. Haynes, Commodore of the CYCA, said that 2022 had been a life-changing moment. So to be able to back it up in 2024 and have the wonderful achievement of sailing with my crew, it is an achievement. Most of the 2022 crew were with me, and the rest have sailed with me in other races, he said. The Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race and its organizer, the CYCA, have been supported by Rolex since 2022 and are cornerstones of its long-standing relationship with the sport. I'm going to ask Claire to comment on Rolex, and I'm going to ask Mr. Doctor when he reappears.
It was 2002, not 22.
Oh, since 2002. Thank you. Thanks, Julia. That's why we have Julia here, you know. We have to have somebody from Stanford to keep track
You bet.
of my Crutonic. Claire, tell us about Rolex and what they mean to the sport.
Well, I can tell you specifically what they mean to the New York Yacht Club, but in general to the sport. They've been an amazing, very loyal and very generous partner to us. And many of our regattas are sponsored by Rolex. And we just, I think I've mentioned this before, but we just signed a new 10-year deal with Rolex, and a very generous one, to which I am extremely grateful. We all are, quite frankly. And the biggest and newest regatta that that's Rolex will sponsor is the 2026 inaugural international women's keelboat race in IC37s. And it's an open event. You don't have to be sponsored by a yacht club. It's, all category sailors, pros and Corinthian sailors. And we're expecting it to be a tremendous event. So, and they sponsor, as I say, many of the Invitational Cup, Race Week, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a wonderful partnership.
Fantastic. And that will be in 2026. Who will be Commodore then if she plays her cards right?
That might be, let's see. Who would that be?
Claire, thanks for that.
That would be me.
Yeah.
Yep.
There is, I love to give Rolex credit. Speaking of Rolex, I don't know the gentleman, Laurent Delany from Rolex.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know him, Claire?
I have met him, yes.
Oh, you have? Good. Is he, so
Yes.
he's from Switzerland, not,
Switzerland, yes.
sometimes they have the local yokel, the person running the country or running the market, the bigger, for example, there must be somebody who's running
Yeah.
maybe Australia, New Zealand, the South Pacific, who knows? But the gentleman, he must have come in then from Switzerland with the Rolex to present to Commodore Haynes. And there is Vice Commodore David Jacobs. And I just want to say one more time, shout out to David, to Vice Commodore Jacobs, because I think he was left not holding the bag. That's the wrong way to put it. But he had the responsibility of doing the prize giving and of fronting up for the CYCA to the media after the loss of life in this race. And Bravo Zulu to them and the CYCA and it's class act for sure.
Yeah.
So that's the Commodore.
Rolex.
Go ahead, please, Andrew.
Yeah. Well, Rolex are fantastic sponsors because they sponsor Rourke, and all the time when I was with Rourke, and now they sponsor the IMA. But they tend to
Hang on, Andrew. Just for people who may not know, and that's precious few, but Rourke means what and IMA means what?
Royal Ocean Racing Club. So the Fastnet is sponsored by Rolex Geneva, as is, I think you'll find that Porto Cervo and the really big events like the Sydney Hobart are of Geneva. But then you go to the more local events like IMA Europeans or the Saint-Tropez, and that tends to be sponsored by Rolex France or Rolex Italy, or so that there are the major events are still very much in control of Switzerland.
Very nice, very good.
They send out somebody from Switzerland. Same with when they go to the World Sailing Conference and present the Rolex Sailor of the Year, they send somebody from Switzerland.
And the Middle Sea Race and on and on. It's a fabulous sponsor. Yeah. And I'll just give you a hint. We are not awarding them Group of the Year, but I sure thought about it.
Yeah.
I sure thought about Rolex as the Group of the Year.
But it's not just it's this year, it's every year.
Well, the group that we're awarding this year at the end of the show, Group of the Year, I think is every year. Yeah. And maybe we'll hit Rolex next year. But what a great sponsor and great job. Thanks for that, Andrew, and thanks, Claire. The other thing is, just to mention these deaths, they had a memorial service yesterday. Today, it's the 31st. It was the 31st down there. And it was simple, and there was a video. I put it up on my Facebook page. It was a YouTube video, but they made it private. So apparently they didn't want it shown, but it was a public video on YouTube. But it was a very short, classy affair, and several articles have been written, including this from Code Sports, which is down under an Australian outlet. Emotional tribute for Sydney to Hobart sailors Nick Smith, the names have been released now, and Roy, and I guess it's Quaden or Quaden, on the Constitution dock. Family flew in fact, for this. Tears rolled unchecked down the sunburnt faces of Sydney to Hobart sailors as they honored 2 men killed at sea in a fatal 2024 race, which has triggered an outpouring of emotion.
No question.
And indeed, Julia, and there is the ceremony itself. You can see the wreaths being laid on the water's edge there at the dock, and up above those are that's the vice commodores, I think, of the 2 clubs of the Hobart and also the CYCA. But with 6 yachts still racing and 30 retired as of when this was done yesterday or today, they're down under. Excuse me. Family members and connections of the 2 sailors, Nick Smith and Roy Quaden, flew to Hobart to be part of the tribute where wreaths were laid on Constitution Dock and petals thrown into the water by fellow sailors. A minute's silence was then observed by sailors and locals who came to the dock to honor the men. Quote, "May your spirits now be free to roam the eternal ocean where the sky meets the sea," read CYCA Commodore Sam Haynes. You will forever be part of our crew, carried by the rides of love and memory. And those of you who have been following this on my Facebook page, he's on here, but Graham Sweeney made a terrific tribute on his Facebook page, which I cut and paste onto mine. Graham, thanks again for your sentiments expressed. Thank you, sir. Finally, there are the picture of the wreaths at the water's edge. I thought it was a beautiful service and just simple, clean, and poignant, and more. Today, this is the statement, by the way. Today, we gathered with heavy hearts to honor 2 cherished members of our sailing community who tragically lost their lives while competing in our race. We extend our deepest condolences to their families, their friends, their fellow crew members, and all those in our sailing community who feel this profound loss. Fair winds and following seas, dear friends. May a gentle breeze forever fill your sails and guide you to peaceful waters. May your spirits now be free to roam the eternal ocean, as you just heard, where the sky meets the sea and every journey is endless. You will forever be part of our crew, carried by the tides of love and memory. That's the full statement. I just had the excerpt from that website article a moment ago. That was the memorial service on the 31st of December. That's the CYCA statement following that memorial service. And here are the 2 gentlemen. Roy Quaden, sorry, I don't know the pronunciation, from Australia, age 55. He was on the yacht Flying Fish Arctos, which of course retired, as did the other yacht, Bolin, on which Nick Smith was sailing, an Australian, age 65. And they passed away, and may they rest in peace. Okay, I go to our Zoomers in case Graham or Claire or Andrew have anything to add to that very nice send-off.
No, I think that's
It's sobering.
entirely appropriate. Yeah.
Sobering.
I think the worry is the people who, the press grab hold of these things whenever there's a fatality in any of these races and say, no, the race should have been abandoned. And, we all know that we go into this sport, that it's a high risk. What's actually incredible, I think, with offshore racing and the sort of conditions we see, like the beginning of the last Fastnet, but particularly always in the Bass Strait, is how on earth we don't lose more people. I mean, it's impressive that the safety requirements for the Hobart are way, way more difficult to satisfy than any of the other offshore races, and for good reason. It's a high risk race, and you've got to leave it to the owners and the boats and the crews to make the decision of whether they're capable and safe to do it. if once we get to where the French are, where they really can't start racing in winds of more than 20, 25 knots because they are culpable for manslaughter if there's any accident. If that starts to spread around the world, then the sport is dead.
Well, and the other point that the Vice Commodore made that I thought was excellent when we showed that on, I guess it was on Friday, is that the other reason for not calling the race off in progress is that there's a whole lot of safety issues, including all the other boats out there. I mean, imagine if they'd called the race off and then that guy fell overboard. And there was nobody out there, or people had turned around or away, or they were no longer paying attention to the AIS or to the EPIRBs or to the communications. So I thought that was a great point, too.
Indeed.
Claire, did you have a point to make?
I just want to say the whole thing is quite sobering, but I agree with you, Tom, that to a person, top to bottom, and the whole situation was handled just so appropriately and beautifully and so skilled and thoughtful. I really applaud them for the way that the whole thing was handled. Really very well done. And to your point also about calling the race off, I had an exchange with Rich Dumoulin just a couple of days ago about this very race. Rich being one of our seamanship committee members and a very experienced offshore sailor, said that so often when people stop racing, that's when they get into trouble because they're not as focused and they turn around, they go back and you're in a different mode. And so you're not quite as keen to pay attention to things the way you would normally do while racing. It's just, I thought it was an interesting point.
It is a good point.
Exactly right. I stepped off my boat because of that very reason. I've been away for a few years working overseas, and my skipper asked me to go on his yacht to race with him again, like old time's sake. And I went on and I did 2 races, and I realised by the second race that I was not going to be the person I was, and that I would probably be more of a liability, even though I probably can sit there and have all the skills, but that's the person behind the wheel that should be having those, not me sitting in the cockpit telling people what to do. So I stepped off and I walked away, and I lost a good friend because of that. He never forgave me for doing that, but I believe that was the right thing to do.
Steve Gruber makes an interesting point. When I was self-employed as a sailor, I could not afford disability insurance. Sailing, I was told, was the second most dangerous occupation. I wonder what, to being a miner perhaps or something.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is tough, but it's a sport we love, and we will continue to do it, and we'll take responsibility as owners, and the race committee will do a job advising us on what to do, but at the end of the day, it's our responsibility. It has always been, and I'm sure it always will be. And the issue of helmets comes up, and again, it'll be, I hope, up to the people on the yachts to decide, as it is now. And there are people who wear helmets in kiting, certainly in the America's Cup and Sail GP, and if that's the decision of the yachts or the race organizer for that particular event, then that's, I think, the way to manage the sport. Okay, I think we've covered that. Bobby Steele, I'm going to give you the final comment here. One of my many hats is safety. He survived the bad Fastnet and has been involved with the Cruising Club of America, CCA, with the Transpac, Trans-Pacific race, and our U.S. sailings that here in the U.S., the Storm Trysail Club, follow up on most of the post recap to analyze and well, that's the important thing. I'm sure you would all agree is to follow up from these, and I'm sure the CYCA will do as they did after 98, as the RORC did after 79, and any other such incident. And Clay Embley, one more comment. Every good skipper, if they admit it or not, thinks about liability before and during the race. Keep the media out of the decision making. Good point. Good way to wrap this up. Thank you to all of you and to our Zoomers for those comments. Thank you very much. And wrapping up then finally this Rolex Sydney to Hobart 2024. There is the line honors rather. Law Connect, Celestials we mentioned, Wild Thing ended up third. Whisper, we haven't mentioned much, if at all, and then No Limit, boats from New South Wales, were fourth and 5th. And as you can see, they were well back, as was mentioned by several of you. And then on corrected on the IRC, and notice I put IRC there in headlines, Mr. Doctor. Celestial V70, Sam Haynes, Law Connect, Christian Beck, Wild Thing 100, Caro, Max Klink. I love Max's name, Max Klink. And Smuggler Sebastian Bone from New South Wales. Andrew, do you have any comments on any of those boats? Or owners?
Caro's got a lot of good guys like Ade Stead.
Adrian Stead from the UK.
Yeah. And that team are going to sail in the Admiral's Cup for New Zealand, in fact.
Okay, well, bravo Zulu to them. I have one other note. I thought we'd end this on a particularly upbeat, positive note. Does any of you know this lady? Any of you in the comments in the chat? I did not know her, but she is very well known in Australian ocean racing circles. Her name is Annika Thompson. Elsewhere in the fleet, Annika Thompson, co-skipper of Ocean Crusaders Jaybird, a TP-52, was awarded the Jane Tate Memorial Trophy for the first female skipper across the finishing line for the 3rd consecutive time. Now, the trophy is named after Jane Tate. Tate, it should be noted, was the first female to compete in the race back in 1946. And Thompson is the first skipper to have won this trophy 3 times. So bravo Zulu to her. And Julia, I thought that was a nice way to wrap this segment.
Yes. Absolutely.
And Fog Machine, who knows a lot of things, Lance Burke here at St. Francis Yacht Club, he says she's double-handed it in the past as far as he remembers. And Anna Bergqvist says she is Swedish.
Yes, we know that.
Well, no, Anna Bergqvist says that Annika Thompson is Swedish.
Yeah.
So, bravo Zulu. I mean, you with a name like that, you would have thought that. Clayton Embley saying, well done, lady. Ocean Crusaders is a great organization, Alan Long is saying in the chat.
You haven't mentioned your local man, Christopher Lewis.
Well, we did a bit of a feature on him in the final leg on Friday's show, so I didn't want to pat ourselves on the back, bring it up again. But he again was the navigator on Law Connect, and is widely celebrated here at St. Francis now. You know, he doesn't get a lot of ink locally because he's off sailing in one of your races, Andrew, or in Sydney Hobart or something. But when he comes home, we usually throw a party for him and congratulate him because he does sail with our immediate past Commodore.
I enjoyed chatting with him on the island.
At the Stag, you can say it, Andrew, on the Stag Cruise.
Yes.
Those of you that don't know, we had Andrew as the VIP. We have VIPs to the men's retreat in September every year. St. Francis has been doing this for 60, almost 70 years. They own an island up in the Delta, up towards Sacramento, the state capital. And it's a 4-day retreat. And this year, for the first time, whoever the Crutonic chairman was of that event decided to invite, not Crutonically, but he had this idea to invite Andrew McIrvin as the keynote speaker. And Andrew gave very graciously, he was to give a big speech, but then he ended up sharing the stage with Kimball Livingston, Staff Commodore Kimball Livingston, and John Kostecki, Julia, who was there as having just won the Star Worlds. And the two of them, without any, I don't think, Andrew, you'd rehearsed.
No, we tore up the rehearsal.
You did, but the two of you then gave, I wish we'd recorded it, but what goes at Tinsley stays at Tinsley. But what the two of you did was to say how important the clubs are and volunteers are in our beloved sport, and anything and everything we can do to promote that is what's most important for all of us there at the island and beyond. Was that a good summary, or go ahead?
Yeah, perfect.
And
I shouldn't be able to. Isn't it a bit like the 60s? I shouldn't, if you were there, you shouldn't be able to remember it.
Yeah, Lance Burke, back to Christopher Lewis, a.k.a. Lou. He's better known as Lou. I am very lucky to have Lou as my expedition mentor. He's taught expedition, for those of you who are not offshore navigators and more. It's one of the two big software programs for navigating yachts. in yacht races. Greg Norman, thank you to you. Happy New Year, Tom, from Inside Great Lakes Sailing, and thanks for your friendship. Well, thanks for your friendship and support, Greg. Much appreciated. And I should also note that Ted Ryman is now officially, we should raise a glass. Julia
Yes.
and gang on the, we should raise a glass. We'll start with Julia. Raise a glass to Ted Ryman, where it's now 11 minutes after midnight in Cape Town.
Yay. Happy New Year.
Happy
Happy
New
New
Year,
Year.
Ted and gang
Year.
on the. What? This is fun. We should do this every show. Takes a lot of load off me. We got lots of other people to gas bag on here besides Julia.
I should say hello to Lance as well. He was another friend on Tinsley.
Lance Burke.
Yeah.
He's a good man, that one. And he loves his.
And of course, Bo.
And Bo,
his-
who owns the yacht on which they sail.
Mm-hmm.
And Julia, remember the name of the yacht?
Iron.
Mayan, Mayan. It's a classic yacht. And who owned that yacht?
The beach.
Do you remember, Andrew, who owned Mayan? You looked at the yacht,
Yeah.
or maybe the one that
Yeah.
our staff,
Dave Crosby.
David. Well
Crosby's.
done,
Yes.
Mr. Doctor. David Crosby of the band. Julia
I
Crosby,
Stills and Nash.
Stills and Nash. Well done.
He grew up on the ranch next to me.
Yeah, I know that. That's why I thought you'd know that. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and joining them latterly was Young. Crosby, Stills,
Yeah.
CSN, and Y. Great band.
Did John Lennon learn to sail on it?
Say again, Claire, and then we'll go to you,
Didn't-
Graham.
Didn't Ted Kennedy own a classic yacht called Mayan?
Not that Ted Kennedy. Not,
May have.
Kennedy kept it in Hyannisport.
not that
I'd have to check that. I'm pretty sure he.
maybe. See if
Yeah.
anybody in the chat knows or people are got their Google fingers working. What
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
speaking of your club, of which you and your late husband were Commodores, and Walter Cronkite, the esteemed newsman, the most trusted man in America, was a member, and we've talked about that and
Yep.
him. Do you remember the name of his yacht?
Winty.
Winty. Well done.
Ah,
And Chris Exley has got the answer. Thank you, Chris. Give him some applause. It was a schooner.
Nearly.
He had
Oh.
a car that went. Yeah, Ted Ryman. He says Ted Kennedy had a car that went off a bridge.
Yeah,
And,
I've been.
but the name of
I've
the
been to
yacht,
that
it was a
bridge.
Concordia yawl named
Mhm.
Maya. Chris Exley thinks.
Maya. Okay.
Okay.
I was close. I was close.
And Andrew, you were saying?
Well, I was going to tell a Mayan story, but I'm not sure I'm entitled to.
Please.
But told to me by somebody on board, probably Lance actually, that when Bo bought the boat, he found that there was this big wide double bunk and there were no lee cloths. And he said, well, how do you manage? And apparently Crosby said, I just put a chick each side.
yeah. Right.
Almost a finger wag.
No.
No, it's
That's
just
a good
being
clean
friendly.
shirt.
They also had a thing that when he sold it to them, he had permission to go sailing on it anytime he wanted.
Yeah, in perpetuity. When David Crosby sold it
Mhm.
to our immediate past Commodore, Bo Froelich. Is he our immediate? He's our immediate past Commodore.
Yeah.
Almost out of that job now, as our flags change
Right.
in a couple weeks. And yes, and he did come sail with Bo Froelich, with Commodore Froelich, any number of times.
And his older brother Chip was a drummer and a date of mine for a while.
You dated him?
We were in high school together.
Well, did you date everybody? And you say that like, well, of course, I dated everybody in high school. Look at that, Mr. Doctor.
Of course.
Huh?
That's a great story. I love it.
Having visions of Greece.
I thought you also dated David Brubeck's brother.
No, that's awful. His brother was quite old, but I'm
Well, excuse me.
but because he was a music teacher at Santa Barbara High,
Well,
and I did never date him.
and David Brubeck's most famous song, I'm an acolyte of his.
Yeah,
Da 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 da. Claire, can we
Take
put-
5.
Take five. We used to have a segment on this show called Take Five, and I used to use that music and I got copyright strike, so I had to stop doing. I wonder if I can
Right.
play that on your harmonica, Claire. Da 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 da.
And why is it called Take Five?
Because it is in 5,
Bingo.
which is, instead of 4, or waltz, which is 3, or marching music, which is often in 2. Do you know that he did songs in 7 and in 9 too?
Yeah, asymmetrical meters.
Asymmetrical meters, our resident organist
Oh, yeah, we
and
go.
music
Yeah.
department head at St. George's School. Well done. By the way, I'm told that Maya, Philip Laffin, smart people, MYA, it was spelled, and that was Kennedy's boat.
Mm.
And Stingray made a joke. Can Claire buy a consonant? No, we're not. We're not. What game show is that? Jeopardy? Buy a consonant? No.
No, that's what is that terrible show? Oh, sorry.
What's the name of that show?
Yeah, it's oh, come on. Vanna White, she spins the letters around.
Mm-hmm.
What's that called? Not coming to me.
Wheel of.
Wheel of Fortune. There it is.
Thank you, Steve Gruber. Thank you, Clay Embley. Yeah, we've got somebody's on here who's Nadine Francic, who we talked about in the previous show. She was on. Her classmate Russ from the University of Miami used to be Cronkite's boat captain. Boy, this is connections and connections as we're celebrating our New Year's Eve show and New Year's Day for those of you down under, and Ted Ryman in Cape Town, South Africa, where it's just gone beyond midnight. And this is our show number 796 for Tuesday, the 31st of December. And we now go to 2 of our biggest contributors. And I put them right in a row. And since we've been talking about Australia, I thought we'd start with our Australian denizen, the former president of Australian Sailing, with his segment about AAA, which is better known as... Alistair's awesome Australian anecdote. And here's his report for the final report of the year from Down Under.
Wow.
Awesome Aussie anecdote.
G'day, Tom, Julia, and all of Hosey. This is Alistair here with AAAA, the last one for 2024. I thought I'd do a little bit of a John Emmett style walk around. Probably not as well as he does it, but we'll see how we go. So here I am in Mandurah in Western Australia, and if you walk around, and I'll take you for a bit of a walk, and it's a bit like Venice with all the canals here. And I've got a little boat here that a friend has behind me down there that a friend has offered for me to use anytime I want while I'm here. So that'll be nice. But it's a particularly beautiful area here. And I'm here for the Tazo Nationals, which I'm doing with my daughter Claire, who I haven't sailed with for about 15 years. I love my dinghy sailing. I want to be the world's oldest dinghy sailor one day. And I think one thing that's really changed is I'm happy now. I won a few nationals, but it's time to have a bit of fun, relax, and I don't care where we come. Top half of the fleet is what I'm aiming for. Many topical things from this part of the world, obviously. I missed the watch party for the start of the Sydney Hobart race. I was actually at the famous Melbourne cricket ground with 90,000 of my closest friends. Can you imagine that? They had 90,000 for the first day of the match. They had 80,000 for the second day of the match. The third day of the match is today. They're expecting another 80,000 people. It's quite, that's the third day. And the fourth day, they're expecting another 80,000. So it's quite incredible. What an amazing sport. You Americans just wouldn't understand. Anyway, obviously very tragic Sydney Hobart, and we can pause to reflect on that. Very sad. Condolences to all the families, and it's a reminder of how potent the elements are, and a reminder of how serious we all must take safety. It's a risky sport, but it has an incredible safety record. But that risk element is always there, and I'd perhaps just like to say how magnificently the CYCA has handled it. David Jacobs, the Vice Commodore, I thought did a magnificent job at the press conference in very difficult circumstances. But over and above everything, obviously well done to all of the competitors, to line on as winners and corrected time. But over all of that is the very sad situation of having lost a couple of our fellow sailors. very, very sad. I'll just pan around here and show you what a beautiful part of the world this is. And behind me is the Mandurah Offshore Sailing and Boat Club, where we'll be doing the Tay-Zar Nationals. What else is happening? The other thing I want to mention to you is that Pip Hare came into my hometown last night, and I was very sadly not there to greet her. My friend Chris Fury was out on a boat, and it was actually wonderful to see Pip's video with the Sandringham Yacht Club boat giving her a very warm welcome alongside. It's a wonderful achievement of hers to have made it as far as she did, but I think even more than that, the way she's handled the setback, her communications, her spirit, her positivity, her beautiful smile, and the way she just handles all of the challenges that she's been given. She is just one amazing lady. I hope she enjoys her time in Melbourne, and I'm really sorry that I won't be there to get to know her, to say hi and to greet her on behalf of all of the residents of Melbourne and her friends at Sailing Illustrated. Anyway, that's missed opportunity and just a wonderful thing to be able to follow her videos and to follow her journey under jury rig, to appreciate her amazing skills with the jury rigging and the maintenance of her boat, and also the tenacity and persistence to be able to keep going. What a wonderful person. And finally, I'll just perhaps mention that I've got a bit of homework today. Tom, I know I'm going to be doing contributing to my judging responsibilities for the Sailing Illustrated Sailing Person of the Year, and I'll be doing a bit of background reading and checking and compiling my votes as per the criteria that I helped you with, and looking forward to seeing what all of the other judges come up with and what the collective result is. Obviously nobody satisfies all of those criteria, but it's a pretty good way to look at what people have contributed, how they've raised the profile of the sport, whether they've broken the glass ceiling, whether they've achieved a first. You know, there's many, many ways to be looking at the Person of the Year, but I know that we will come up with somebody worthy. And finally, on signing out, I'll just say I won't see you at the watch party in a black tie. I'll tell you why. Because I'm here for the sailing in Perth. Perth would have to be the most disadvantaged city in the world in terms of its time zone alignment or otherwise with Sailing Illustrated. It would be 5 o'clock in the morning for me to be up in a black tie, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be looking after myself in preparation for the Tay-Zar Worlds. And of course, when it's not daylight saving here in Australia, but you have it in the USA, being on Sailing Illustrated from Perth would mean getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning. So it just it's not going to happen while I'm here. So I'd like to take this opportunity to wish Tom, Julia, and all of my really good friends, the other Fozy of Sailing Illustrated, the people I've got to know through your magnificent show, Tom, over the years. Wish everybody all the very best for a very happy new year and great prosperity, luck, success, good fortune and happiness for 2025. Cheers, folks. That's Alistair with AAAA. Over and out for 2024. Cheers. Bye.
So that is the final AAAA for the year. Did you like that, Julia?
Yes, I always like it. He's very good for this.
He is very good. And thank you, Alistair. Now, with respect, Julia.
Yes, sir.
It is 06:25 in Perth. And I hope he wakes up early. He gets up early. He goes bike riding. He watches the show. So I hope he gets on here so we can wish him, come on the Zoom and wish him a Happy New Year as well. Another excellent AAAA. Ryman is saying, Alan Long, Happy New Year, Alistair. Great AAAA. All the best. And yes, he is a fuzzy Fozy, Rick Banner, like you are. You're not his usual clean shaven self. And thanks,
Yes.
Alistair, for your awesome Aussie anecdote. Go ahead, Mr.
It was
Doctor.
great to. Well, he got in touch with Andrew Pindar and myself, and because he was coming over to England, he did a long stint in Europe for the Olympics, and we all had dinner together at Rourke in in the Royal Ocean Racing Club clubhouse in London.
We
and had
ran pictures of that
You
dinner.
did indeed. And, it's lovely to have met him for real, as well as watching his excellent little films. So happy New Year to him.
Great.
And good luck in his racing with his daughter.
Oh, yes. We'll look forward to hear the end of that.
He's being tased in WA. Graham or Claire, you don't have to say anything, but to either of you, I don't want to stand in the way if either you want to say something.
No.
Okay, Graham? Okay.
No, he's a fantastic chap. Hope he does well.
Wonderful.
He is indeed. Good on you, Alistair. Rick Banro is saying, okay, we'll move on here and we'll do our other regular we'll hear from our regular reporter, Julia.
Yes.
That, of course, is John Emmett from the Coaching Corner with John Emmett in Great Britain. Do you like the little things I added to all these slides?
Yes.
You're not impressed.
I'm not impressed, but I like them.
Well, I'm hurt. Here's John.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. Welcome to Imberhorn Farm for John Emmett's Coaching Corner, and wishing you a very happy New Year. Now, that's always a bit of a strange one, because I'm aware that the Fozy come from all over the world, and therefore all over the different time zones. And because of that, some of you will have had New Year already. Some of you, it will be just about New Year. And some of you, it's going to be many hours before it's actually New Year. But that is not the point. I talked to you a little bit a while ago about New Year's resolutions. And I said, I'm always reluctant to put a date on things, because actually I just believe sooner rather than later. But you've had plenty of time to think. Comments below, but I'll start first. My New Year's resolution is to try and do everything I can, not just in 2025, but ongoing, to help the inclusivity of sailing. And by that I mean to help anyone who wants to go sailing, go sailing. Simple as that. It shouldn't matter if you're able-bodied or not. It shouldn't matter where you're born, where you grew up. There's something out there for everyone. In fact, in the UK, I wonder if we have too many sailing classes and we have a lot of handicap racing, whereas personally, I think one design racing is absolutely king, and that's why I love the Ilka so much, for that really close cutthroat racing, even if we're only going about 5 knots upwind. But that's just my opinion. There's so much sailing out there for everyone. Inclusivity is fundamentally part of participation, and it's driving participation, and that's probably the thing closest to my heart. Just the more people we have sailing, it doesn't matter if your focus is elite, the more people we have sailing, the better. In fact, in terms of elite, the more people you have actively racing and training, the better the very best people will get. I mean, the Australian and the British Ilka squads are just absolute textbook example of that. And I think we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. What we do need to look at is what is going to work in a modern environment. So in the past, unfortunately, I have clashes with people where they really want to go back to how things were, because they saw in the past that things were very good. And I agree, we certainly had a golden age for many things. I would love to have a house in Weymouth, but you know, getting on the property market is pretty difficult. And things, you know, in hindsight can never be changed. If we're in a time machine, so to speak, we can only go forwards. We can never go back. So old solutions to current problems, by definition, don't work, because if they were solutions to current problems, we wouldn't currently be having those problems because they'd already be solved. So we do need to think and look outside the box in our problem solving for 2025. And, you know, things which may work in the past, which don't work now, will have changed because something has changed, and we need to look at what that change is. But a good starting point, a template, is what people are doing well. So I've said it many times about if you look at the RYA system, they've just got, crikey, I should do my fact checking before I do this, but best part of £25 million for the next Olympic cycle. And even though the medal count wasn't what it needed to be, or rather what they were hoping for in terms of their outcome goals, the processes are very much there, that they're in the hunt for medals every single fleet, and they have the strength and the depth that continues. So they're doing a lot of things right. And it's like, if you go to a foreign country and you don't know much about the situation there, you're not going to make a bad decision by doing what the majority of people do. So if you go to Sweden in the winter and you're looking at getting a car, I suggest probably a Volvo is a pretty good choice. It might not be the best choice, but the fact that the majority of Swedes are out there driving Volvos, you know it's going to be a good choice. So when we're looking at inclusivity, if we look at the programs that have worked and are working, that's a very good model for us to have for the future. And I think it's just all about being positive and focusing on the things we can change, and to work with the individuals who can facilitate that change. So I'm feeling really excited and inspired for 2025. I find every day is a school day for John. I'm always learning. I mean, I didn't actually learn to read until I was about 8 years old. So I've always been a bit of a slow starter, but depending how you count, I've got 5 books now. So it's never too late to start making a difference. Really looking forward to reading everybody's comments, and very best wishes once again for a happy new year.
Nice shot.
Yep.
Nice ending shot with Lily Zhu, Golden Lily.
Yep.
As Alan Long says, there's so many comments about his hat and his beard.
Yep.
What was it? I just lost the comment. How are you going to keep them down on the farm after they've seen Gay Paris? You see old Paris. That was a saying after World War I here, wasn't it, in the States, Julia?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Come on, help me out, Julia.
Yes.
Happy New Year, John. Happy New Year, Lily Zhu. Thank you very much for that. Nice sentiments. And I don't know what that guy who was running behind him thought when who's that guy holding his stick and talking to himself. Good stuff.
Yep.
Another fuzzy fuzzy, and we appreciate it very much, John. From the coach's corner, get to the front of the fleet, and he mentioned that, and I haven't run the story, but several of you sent it to me, apparently the Brits are piling even more money in from their national lottery and so on.
Which is a great thing.
Into the Olympic sports, including sailing. Sailing's going to get an uptick as well. So Bravo Zulu, hopefully, the Brits don't get, well, they will. They'll get even better.
Yes.
Than they have been, along with the Aussies and the Kiwis and a few other countries.
Yeah, part of that is because it's continual support, too.
Exactly.
And that really makes a difference.
Exactly right. Coach Emmett, thank you very much, John, and thank you for that. Now we get to, I thought we should follow this day and follow John's report with this day in history, since it also involves a Brit. Julia.
Yes.
Do you know what happened on this day in history, the 31st of December, just a few years after the first America's Cup, 1857. And here's your first clue. Da 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 da
Queen
da da.
Victoria.
That is Queen Victoria. Well done. Da 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 da. H.M. Her Majesty Queen Victoria lived from 1819 to 1901. Long life, a lot of kids.
Mm-hmm.
Brought a lot of us into the industrial age. Anybody, any of the Zoomers have an idea of what happened on this day in history? There's your first clue with the Queen.
No idea.
Okay, I'll give you another clue. Anybody recognize that structure on the hill?
Is that Canada?
Well done, Andrew.
Oh, look at that.
See that? When I bring it in down a little bit, the magic move, you can see the Canadian flag up there on top. That is the city.
Is that the Frontenac?
No, close.
No?
That's Parliament Hill in
Quebec?
Ottawa.
Oh,
Rick
gosh.
Bannerow says Montreal, no. And a very interesting story, and I had no idea until I was researching this, doing this story last night, that actually Her Majesty decided for the Canadians, because they couldn't decide themselves, on their capital town, their capital city of Ottawa. And here is the rest of that story. In 1857, the Queen chose Ottawa as the seat of government for the province of Canada. It was then a province of the territory, province, I guess, of the
English.
Yeah, of the British What, Andrew? The what were you then?
Well, it
Imperial
was-
Britain. You were the
It
United
was
Kingdom.
part of the British Empire. Yeah.
Yeah.
The British Empire, exactly. This followed years of intense rivalry among the elected representatives of pre-Confederation colonies of Upper and Lower Canada who could not agree on a permanent site. In fact, the original site, believe it or not, was in Kingston in 1841. And for extra credit, why is Kingston famous to sailing?
I don't know. That I
University of
don't know.
Kingston
Olympic
is there.
Regatta. Used to have a Kingston Olympic Regatta. didn't it?
Correct. Yet again, Andrew. Ding, ding, ding.
Oh,
well
yes,
done.
Well done.
Andrew, that is okay. Enough of that. That is the site of the 1976 Olympic sailing, yacht regatta. I mean, it was called yachting then. Yachting regatta and the lead-up regattas on the northeast corner of Lake Ontario, and that was originally sort of the way New York and Philadelphia were originally national capitals here in this country back in the colonial days. And they couldn't agree. They moved it to Montreal, and in 1849, the legislative building was burned by rioters. We thought the Canadians were so polite and proper, and apparently not back in the day. Thereafter, a system was adopted and yada, yada, and they finally, there was more to it, and I didn't want to write all this in, but apparently she asked her governor general, and the guy was a bit of a crouton. He couldn't decide. Finally, she said, well, we'll do Ottawa because it's more or less equidistant between Kingston, Montreal, Quebec City, and Toronto. Toronto, as Paul Henderson
Yeah.
would say. So that's what happened on this day in history.
Good for her.
The Queen designated Ottawa as the capital of Canada. 31st of December, 1857, 6 years after AC0, the first America's Cup, Julia.
Yes,
Huh?
absolutely.
Cork. Fog Machine remembers, and Rick Banner remembers Cork, which stood for Canadian Olympic Regattas at Kingston.
Oh,
I used to go up there in my little Fireball and then my 470 and race at Cork in Kingston. You'd stay in the dormitories. It was a great setup, a nice place to sail. The weird thing about that part of Lake Ontario, here's a bit of a, let's see if any of the three of you or others in the chat know this. Geologically, that end of Lake Ontario, compasses don't work very well because there's big deposits of iron ore or something
yeah.
under the lake, and you would go out there and try to race and see if you're getting headed or lifted, and your compass, you wouldn't know if you were really getting headed or lifted if you're sailing toward the open water and you're not sailing toward shore. And the breeze normally came out of the south, so you were sailing out, into the open lake, and you weren't sure if it was the compass was going, or if it was an actual wind shift.
Right.
You had to see my hand gesture.
Yeah.
Surely Greenland is the higher priority. That's great. We're going to buy Greenland, right?
Right.
That's what happened on this day in history. Her Majesty the Queen chose Ottawa. Okay. I hear Trump needs to invade Canada. Still can't figure out why the Canadians are confused. Apparently more than 60% of them. Did you hear this, Andrew? More than 60% of the Canadians favor becoming an American state or several states. Huh?
That rather goes against the those maps that were being drawn that Canada was going to take over California and all the blue bits of your country on the coast.
Yeah.
They would absorb into Canada.
Well, Claire, you'd like that, wouldn't you? Because you're in Connecticut, which is a blue state, and you'd be part of Canada.
That'd be all right.
It
That'd be
would?
okay. Anything to help Connecticut.
Connecticut.
I was told that basically Canada was exactly the same as America, except they had fewer guns and better health care.
Well, I'm not so sure about the better health care. They probably have fewer guns, and that's debatable because who would know? But they're certainly more polite.
They are.
As Canadians. Okay, here we go. Getting down here, we got to do a Vendée report, right? We haven't done one yet. And a quickie. This is the quickie Vendée report, day 51, as they're now headed back up in the Atlantic Ocean. to the finish line. It seems like only yesterday the race started. And of course, it started on the 10th of November. There's been another lead change. There's a fight, a big battle at the top of the fleet, at the head of the fleet. You can see in this, I've put in this chart here, the fourth place, Thomas Riant, who is over 1,000, over 1,300, in fact, nautical miles behind in fourth place. And then there's those top 3 boats, and I've had nothing to drink, those top 3 boats. And then there's been the big fight between the 2 leaders, and New Year, same Vendée goals is the headline just before we went to air, and the light airs off the Brazilian coast whilst, what a word, whilst.
I like that.
What a croutonic word. Why don't they just say while? The rest.
No,
Why don't you just say while, Julia?
It's
Whilst.
I know. It's
Whilst or whilst?
It's wild.
Whilst.
Whilst. It's
all
even
right.
worse.
Reasonable word.
Whilst the rest of the world, where am I? I can't even switch the show anymore. Whilst the rest of the world wait to welcome in the new year and say goodbye to 2024, the leading duo would dearly like to welcome in a fresh new win for their start of 2025 and rid themselves of the very complicated conditions caused as the St. Helena high pressure expands whilst being bisected by the cold front at Cabo Frio, at Cape Frigid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the latest news. And we've had, however, this lead change. Again, Charlie, who led a good bit of the race, then fell behind Johan Richomme. He's now back in the lead, but just by 30 or so miles. And so 2025 will start the same as 2024 ends. The 2 leaders only a handful of miles apart. Charlie Dallan and Massif Santé Prévoyance took the lead again during last night and has crept away from Johan Richomme on Paprik, Arkea. You all speak French way better than I, to be about 30 miles ahead this evening. In third place is, we never talk, poor old Seb never gets any ink here. Group Dubril, how do you say that, Julia?
Yeah.
Dubril has seen his gains reverse slightly as he too runs into the light air, making speeds in single-digit figures. Long story short, there is your leaderboard, first through fifth. Just a bit of a change there, but Charlie and Johan are way out ahead of Sebastian, 320 miles. And then the 3 of them, the distance to the leader is, as I said, from Thomas Riant, who's now in fourth, has a long catch-up if he's going to be in the hunt as they get up to the finish. Lundven Rothschild, Sam Rothschild, the British entry. On Vulnerable is in 8th. Boris Hermann, Malizia, the German entry, sailing for the Yacht Club de Monaco, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
Coolest yacht club. That is a cool yacht club, isn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, very cool. Looks like a sort of cruise ship.
Modern day
liner.
cruise ship, cruise liner. And then Justine Metro, the First Lady, is in 10th. Justine is. Jean Lecomte is in 16th. And our one of our favorites, Conrad Coleman, the Kiwi who emigrated to Colorado and is now living in France, is in 28th, about the same position he's been all along. You saw references to this lady, to Pip Hare. We've talked about her and what a fantastic job and inspiration she is to our beloved sport on Medallia. As she was approaching Melbourne a couple days ago, she managed to get a second sail rigged, as you see here. These are photos from the Sandringham Yacht Club, and 3 photos he sent these to me. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sending these along. And this is on her final approach. You can see the shore in the background, and ever the upbeat spirit. She's really terrific. And one of the few videos, these photos, courtesy of Sandringham Yacht Club, who went out to meet her.
Good.
In a big way. A whole lot of the club went out there, and others. And this is about the only video we're going to play other than the videos from Alistair and John on this show. And it's about 5 minutes long. But I thought in celebration of her spirit, we should play this of Pip Hare.
Good morning and welcome on board the final day where the slow boat eventually makes Melbourne. And I'm no longer alone. So I was joined last night by the incredible crew on board Little Miss Magic.
Saw some of those about 4 or 5 miles further down the track where we're heading now.
Really? Okay, yeah. So do you reckon this is about the right distance from the coast? And they have been watching over me all night as we prepped down the coast. They were behind me. I would just tell them when I was going to sleep, and they were keeping a lookout for traffic, and it was a quiet night, which is great. Most incredible sunrise this morning, and there they are just ahead of me, and now I'm following them into Port Phillip Heads, and look what I've just been joined by. Sea of dolphins. Hello my friends. Well, they didn't stay very long. Apparently slow boats aren't interesting to dolphins. Oh well, can't win them all. So up ahead here you can see there's the entrance to Port Phillip. So that's called the Rip, and we've got to pick our way through that. It can be quite vicious at times. We're in through the heads now, and I just had a visit from border control. Very friendly they were. I pointed out I'm not sneaking into the country, and now we're just going down the South Channel. You can see the markers ahead of me into the main bay that we need to go across to get to Melbourne. So I've just been visited by the crew on Little Miss Magic, Steve and Neville. They've dropped off some diesel, some fruit, and a care package as well. So I can't wait to see what's in there. So I'm going to look in this bag first. Oh, this is exciting. Tea. Baby wipes. A bottle of champagne and a lot of fruit. Oh, look at this. Melon, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. Oh man, plums, peaches, an orange, oh grapes, oh apricots. They think I can't eat all of this. They have no idea. Joined by some visitors who were laying marks apparently for a regatta that's happening in the bay over there. Hello! Next, I am going to have a cup of tea. This is making me happy. I put the trysail up for old time's sake. The sun is shining, and this could be the best cup of tea in the world. So you can see the Melbourne city skyline behind me there. We're about 6 miles from the main channel, and I've been visited by the folks from the Sandringham Yacht Club over there. Come to say hi. There've been quite a few boats popping up to say hello as I cross the bay, which is amazing. It's just the most warm welcome you could possibly imagine. And there's little Miss Magic there, showing me the way. Hello, Melbourne. We've just come underneath the Westgate Bridge and I've been joined by Neville aboard, who's going to help me with lines when I'm parking. Not far to go now. Tied up now in Melbourne City Marina with the sun just setting behind me. And that's a wrap. No more slow boat. Let's go fast next time.
Nice.
Yeah, nice video, and thank you. Lots of great comments. You have to go back and read the comments. And Greg,
Yes.
Father Greg Newman down in Newport Beach, Balboa Yacht Club said, she is, I've lost the comment, but she is what is right about our sport and our world, or words to that effect. And
Yeah.
Anna Berkvist was saying, yes, really brilliant and charming. Ted Ryman, you got to be Ted. It's almost an hour there after midnight. You got to be into your something there. He's saying, excellent video, well done, Pip.
Mm-hmm.
And to all of you down there in Melbourne who helped her, who are helping her, Bravo Zulu. It's what a great yachting town, Formula One town, and more is that town of Melbourne. Okay, that gets us to the last leg in our promised inaugural Group of the Year and Person of the Year nominations. And I will put on, for that, I got to put on my gold scarf,
That's right.
right?
Right.
I did manage to grab that, Derry. A brave lady, Mark Holland is saying, yes, indeed. And I don't have any music. I thought we should have some kind of music for this, but you know what? It's straightforward, and so many people have been working so hard on this to try to come to
Yeah,
an
difficult.
agreement.
And,
The Super Fozy, the people who've been on the show regularly, the people who've been supporting the show regularly, all got together and took all of your nominations from everybody that gave nominations and have paired, P-A-R-E-D, paired those for Person of the Year nominations down to 6.
Mhm.
But we had such a long discussion about whether we should have a group. And remember, John Emmett, I think, was the first to suggest that without Yacht Club volunteers, we could not have a sport. And indeed, we owe everything to Yacht Club volunteers
right.
and beyond. So drum roll, Steve Adkins is saying. So for this segment, our final leg, and first we're going to name, we're going to nominate, not nominate, we're going to name
The
our
nominations.
Yacht Racing Group of the Year, the actual decision, which our group came to. And I'm thinking about how to, going forward in the next, 3-4 weeks, I'm going to try to get examples of this group onto the show to tell us firsthand what it is like for them in this group, as part of this group. And all of you on here, frankly, are part of this group, probably. Most of you are as well. And that is a group like this at the Royal Geelong Yacht Club. Did I pronounce that correctly? In Australia. And they do as good a job as any club I have seen anywhere in the world of celebrating race volunteers. And not just the race committee, but those that help out with registration and onshore activities, plus the race committee and beyond. And our group has, that is our Sailing Illustrated Award, inaugural award for Group of the Year is to race volunteers. Volunteerism is the voice of the people put into action. After a huge summer sailing, it's time to recognize the often, took this obviously from the Yacht Club, from their website, often unsung heroes of the club are volunteers. Without our dedicated team of volunteers, we would not be able to successfully host the high caliber of sailing events that RGYC, for which they are known. See how I did that, Julia?
I'm proud of you.
The club will be hosting a BBQ, a barbecue tomorrow, with an open invitation for all volunteers to attend. This will also be preceded by a volunteer information session hosted by the race management team. See, they even the race management team gets into action, swings into action to support the volunteers in general. For anyone interested in volunteering at the club. So there is our decision, collective, from the Super Fozzy and beyond, because a lot of you nominated Yacht Club Volunteers as being our first Sailing Illustrated Group of the Year. And you could, as we said at the top of the show, you could probably call them the Group of the Year every year. And let me go to the Zoomers. Great concept, Rick Bannerow is saying, and I'll go to the Zoomers for comment and start with Graham Sweeney, who also was supportive of this concept. Graham.
Well, nothing would happen without them. I mean, sailing clubs, we have to have hierarchy. We have to have basically a line of command, but it goes from the bottom up, and the people at the top can't do much without the people at the bottom. So it's worth remembering these people. And they're the guys that do all the work. They open the bars, they put the buoys out, they maintain the boats, they do all those things. I mean, they do, and it's all voluntary. I mean, they don't expect payment, most of these people, and they do a fantastic job, and you cannot rate them high enough. I'm sorry, you cannot.
Thank you, Graham. Let's go to, who wants to go next? Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely wonderful, and it's a tradition, I think, largely in the English-speaking world, because I was quite surprised when I first started running races in Italy that they've got a lot of people, and some of whom are volunteers, but an awful lot of them are paid. They aren't paid very much, but they're paid a small amount, and the concept of volunteering that is deeply rooted, I think, in England, America, Australia. Sorry, Britain, not England, is not carried across into Europe so much. But I'm very glad we have it, and I think it's very important.
Indeed, well said. Vice Commodore Harrington, final word from you.
Yeah, here on all of that. Clearly, we depend on volunteers, and to a person, as you know, I've been involved in race management and race organization for many years, and almost to a person, the people who volunteer for race committee work, race management, the support people, it's because they have sailed or have been involved in some form, and they almost to a person say, I want to give back to the sport. Maybe I can't participate in a way that I did before, but I still want to be involved. I still want to be active. I still want to give back to the sport. And you know, you can't pay people for that. It's so wonderful to have volunteers like that, and it makes it fun.
Well said. Well done. Thank you.
It's also a way for volunteers to get into racing if they haven't been there. So some people do it beforehand,
or never been.
Right.
Some people have never been. I mean, you talk about the 300 people that helped put on the Congressional Cup at Long Beach Yacht Club, year after year after year. You talk about
St. Francis has that.
Well, you have so many days on the water where there is sailing year round,
right?
Like at St. Francis, there's a New Year's Day race, right? Tomorrow, the San Diego Yacht Club New Year's Day race, and people are working year round in the warmer climes, and it's just fantastic. Rick Bannerow saying, great point. Julia Clay Embley agreeing, and 200 people that put on the Governor's Cup year, and it's going on 60 years. In fact, it's socially prestigious. I think the clubs who succeed at this make it socially prestigious to be a volunteer, to help out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would say that you have to. One cannot say, and this is a lesson for all of us. One cannot say thank you enough, and to make people feel special, make them feel that they're part of a team. It's well worth it, and really has great payoff, if you want to call it that.
I at one time in my dubious career, I was vice president of the National Center for Voluntary Action, and had a look at not only national but also international tries at volunteerism, but it is not as built in.
Well, I think that's a good point by Andrew, exactly. And people were surprised how the '84 Olympics got run
Yeah.
And even the 76 Olympics in Canada, basically by volunteers. 2012, same thing. And the Australian Olympics, you were saying.
I think that the one thing that distinguishes the U.S. from any other country is its use of volunteerism. And it was put together sort of by volunteers, and it's run sort of by volunteers.
Some would say amateurs.
Yeah, right. But I mean, that's it is.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, we are the only nation that uses that as one of our part of the community.
Well, I think the Anglo world, I think Australia, New Zealand, the Brits, and beyond. What do you say, Andrew? Or
I would say we had a very strong volunteer culture, way outside sport.
Yes.
Volunteering is very important. And as you say, it's socially inclusive and it's socially highly regarded, and people feel they're being useful. Often people who are retired. So I think it's important. It's interesting probably the only thing that is changing is that race officers who used to be largely volunteered, now we're sort of tending towards using professional race officers for major events.
For the race officer, but they're still, at least here, are largely...
They've still got a gang of volunteers around them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Julia?
Yeah. I lost what I was going to say.
Okay,
Sorry.
well, I think these are great sentiments. And in the comments or otherwise, let's think about how we are going to celebrate volunteerism in our sport beyond just today. I mean, some people will say, okay, Sailing Illustrated is doing these awards and this is their first one. It seems like an obvious choice. It was to most of us who were on the calls. Hamish Ross was one, and Graham, and all our Zoomers were all part of this. And in fact, it was such a strong sentiment, I think it's fair to say, that we said we got to do not just Person of the Year. If we make volunteers the Person of the Year, it seems like a bit of a cop-out. So let's do a second category, and we have. And hence today we're saying the Group of the Year. And maybe next year it's Rolex as a group. Maybe next year it's something else completely we don't understand. But it could be year after year, could be volunteers without a doubt. Any other comments, thoughts from the Zoomers or otherwise? Okay. Hamish Ross, I'll give him the final thought. When the English-speaking world would meet on foreign shores, a club is soon formed.
That's got to be true.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Hamish, good point. Okay, now on to this next category, and arguably the biggest category, although, again, without the volunteers, and that is Category 2, our Sailing Illustrated Yacht Racing Person of the Year for 2024. And we're not going to name that person today because there were so many nominees and we were having such a struggle with trying to sort them out. We thought we'd have another round of discussion and voting, if you will, with the following 6 people. The group did narrow it down to these 6. And again, I'm deeply appreciative of all of you. These are people who've been on the show regularly. You all know who they are and know their names. But here they are. The 6, and we're going to choose one of these as the Person of the Year. Now, before I don't mean to tease you, but before we do any more, Alistair Murray put together that nice list of what's the word I want?
Nominees?
Well, not nominees, of
Criterion.
Criteria. Thank you.
Criterion.
Remember we argued about criteria, or the singular of that. Thank you, Claire. So we have that list of criteria, and we'll put that back up again before we do the final vote on this. But several of you made the point, including Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, who's on here in the Zoom, saying, it shouldn't be just somebody who did something in the past. It should be this year, and it should be on the water. Mm-hmm. It should be actually a Person of the Year for yacht racing on the water who's doing something and making things, maybe they aren't on the water, but they're making things happen on the water. So that helped us narrow it further. And really, so the Oscars broadcast got delayed, Steve Gruber said. Yeah, as we said in the show notes last night when I publicized this, we're going to save the actual naming of this final person to our 800th show 2 weeks from today on the 14th of January. So here are the names. in alphabetical order. Sir Ben Ainsley. Now, one other criteria.
You
What?
spelt it wrong.
Did
You
I?
spelt it.
Oh,
Yes.
Ansley. Okay.
Yeah.
Geez, that's a good start, isn't it? Don't tell Ben I did that, okay, Claire?
Okay. I won't.
Andrew, don't tell him I did that. Now, one other thing that Ben particularly brings to mind, one of the it became a criteria as we were discussing this, is what is these people, these final 6 are people who did things that maybe others didn't necessarily expect they could achieve, that they could pull off. They surprised us. And that was worth noting as well. Yeah, the graphics department is fired against Steve Gruber. That graphic, we have a staff of 50 over there behind Julia, over there behind her in the control room. Come on, control room, get with it. Give him the finger, Julia.
Yeah.
No, don't.
I'm not going to do that.
Sir Ben Ainsley, by any spelling, we all know who he is. And frankly, he surprised the hell out of us, including me. Not all of you, probably not Graham, probably not a couple others, but on how well he did marshaling those forces, getting his team to the finals of the Louis Vuitton Cup. No, he didn't win the cup, but facing immense obstacles, including the concerted efforts of the New York Yacht Club and the Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. And he managed to get across them, through them, and surprise the hell out of us. And I was calling for him to get off the boat, for example. And others were too. Others were calling for his head. And maybe he should have gotten off the boat, and maybe he would have done better. But he also managed his Sail GP team, and they got them sorted out and sort of getting them to the fore, we hope. And we think he's a good, obvious choice for at least the final 6. Remember, they're also now with Mr. Sir Ratcliffe, Jim Ratcliffe, backing off. Maybe, he's still got a big job ahead of him to get the financing together for the next one. They are the challenger of record again, as Claire well knows. So Ted Ryman, Alan Long, and others are saying, bingo, well done. They like that choice. I hope the rest of you do as a nominee, as one of the 6 nominees. And I should say it now at 15:08 here. We have another group. It's like the elections here. They say, okay, the polls have just closed because it's across the top of the hour. The polls have just closed in Colorado and the Mountain State.
Right.
Well, it's just New Year's Eve now on the continent. So Happy New Year, Gordon Smith, and the rest of you on the continent of Europe, where it's just now almost 10 minutes after midnight. Let's raise a glass to them.
Yes.
Come on, we got to raise a glass to everybody on the continent. Graham,
Yes.
are you you're on British time, aren't you? Are you on London time? Graham's muted.
He's nearer Norway than he is London.
What time?
Yeah, but we still have British time here.
And British time up in Shetland and Scotland, even though they're further east, well east. Okay, a drink to you, Gordon Smith, and the rest of you on the continent. Happy New Year. So there's Ben Ainsley. Any other comments on Sir Ben from the Zoomers?
I've had my bit with Ben. I still think he's got the story still to be told, but I can't say much more than that.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we'll go to the next one. And the next name is Cole Brower. No surprise, many of you had that as a nomination. First American to sail around the world single-handed. And not only did it, but did it well. And with the kind of I'd call it the Pip hair aplomb or style. And she did videos. And in this country, it's hard to express beyond this country. In this country, she had a huge impact on the mainstream media, the legacy media, as well as all of us on the internet, but brought quite a bit of interest and insight, maybe insight too.
Why would anybody do that?
Yeah. But cool stuff from Cole. Any comments on Cole?
Well, I'm a fan of Cole's as a newly minted member of the New York Yacht Club.
So you've met her, Claire.
Yeah.
I have several times. Yes. She's delightful.
Is she smart? I haven't met her. We just see her what she looks like. Very bright, perky, worldly.
That's Cole. Yeah, she's very bright and very capable and very skilled.
Gruber said, first American woman, please. What did I say? First American lady?
You said first American.
Oh, first American woman. Thank you. Young female equestrians think she is an absolute rock star. Clayton Embley's daughter is an equestrian rock star in her own right. So, okay, that's good to hear. Here's the next one from New Zealand, Pete Burling. And why did we put him in there? Again, I'm speaking for the group, and forgive me if anybody wants to correct it either or add to it or subtract from it in the chat or otherwise. We put Pete in because we realize he has, he had an enormous impact. I think he's inspired a lot of kids, but he's the first one in a long time to win the Cup 3 times as the helm. Dennis Conner before that, Commodore Vanderbilt before that, and back at the turn of the last century, Claire, you remember who that was?
Oh, you said, and
The Scot, Graham, do you remember his name? Charlie Barr.
Charlie Barr. Yeah.
So this is a huge achievement, and he's also got his SailGP team, and it's a bit of a growing charity. And I know, talking with sponsors of his who've been through San Francisco and otherwise, the guy's done some amazing work in New Zealand with that charity, and bravo Zulu to them. So we thought he was more than well deserving. Hamish Ross, how many times has Russell won the America's Cup on the water? He's saying Russell Coots. How many times has he won the Cup on the water, Hamish? He won it in 95 here in, down in San Diego, to be sure. And he won it in 2000 on the water, defending it. But then he left for Switzerland. He was not on the Swiss defense with which you were involved, Hamish. He was not on the boat in 07. He was not on our boat here in 2010. So he's not won it on the water as the skipper. Now, he ran our campaign in 2010, and he also ran our campaign in 2013. So he's actually won the Cup. But, you got to be careful, because I've won the Cup a bunch of times, too, and lost it a bunch of times, and who cares? Pete Burling has been the driver and won the Cup as the skipper. Bravo Zulu to him. Okay, 3 left to go. Gordon Smith is saying, who else is on there? The next one, Sir Russell Coots himself. And we had a lot of discussion, back and forth, up and down. And you have to give Russell credit because, again, if one of the criterion, is that the right word? One is that we didn't think he'd get SailGP this far. Okay, you can say, well, is that Larry's doing? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, Larry's funding it. And Larry's fund is also sending in, he's a big source of good ideas and so on and so forth, and guidance. But Russell's running the show. And I don't think there's many of you who thought he would get SailGP as far as he's gotten it. And they now have what were all league-owned teams to now half or more than half now are franchise-owned. They've expanded from 8, 9, 10 regattas to up to 12, 13, whatever the number is this year. And a lot of you like to watch SailGP, and it's generating a lot of media, arguably more than the Olympics, arguably more than the America's Cup, but it's right up there. And to have created that out of whole cloth 6 years ago is pretty amazing. So that's why the gang, and I was not a big fan of this, but I've come around to thinking, yeah, that's a hell of an achievement that a lot of us did not expect. Mm-hmm. Did not expect. Okay, so Russell did win in 95, 2000, and 03. Yes, he did. 3-time winner. Thank you, Hamish Ross. I stand corrected and revised. Another reason to honor Russell, perhaps. And he was the short leadership. He was the syndicate CEO in 2010 and in 2013. Good, thank you. Okay, that's 4 of the 6. Grant Dalton. Now, this is not a sop to Julia Ahrens. We're not trying to keep... Right, Julia?
Right.
You and I talked about this. I talked at length with Alistair and with as recently as this morning with Clark Chapin, because those were kind of the final gang here, and John Emmett. And John's not on the show today because he's at a family affair. And those were the gang that are the core contributors, kind of narrowed this final group down after all the super foes he put in their names and mostly agreed on the 6. But we think that, again, Mr. Dalton, Grant, has not only won the Cup as the big kahuna, but he's done it in a way that a lot of us didn't expect he could. He did manage to go find the funding, and whether you agree with his move out of New Zealand, which I don't, and some of the other stuff he's done, I don't agree, but he's had a huge impact on our sport. And he managed to pull off a really decent, by all accounts. Claire, you were there. Andrew, you were there. We watched it. We ourselves did 31 watch parties. Excuse me. How many other watch parties have we done this year? We did, okay, we do GovCop. We did 5 or 6 shows, 9 shows, 10 shows.
Right.
We did the Sydney Hobart watch party. We did a couple others. 31 watch parties because people are interested. And we had a lot of views. Big impact. The Women's America's Cup, the Youth America's Cup. Now, okay, the youth was invented here in San Francisco by us, by Russell, for the 2013. But I think the Women's America's Cup has been a big deal, bigger than I expected. And I go to Claire now and see if she thinks I'm way off base or if he deserves to be one of the 6. Commodore?
Well, if you're talking about impact on the sport, absolutely he deserves to be on the list because high profile guy, it's a high profile event and multifaceted, and he had a lot to do with that.
Good.
How's that?
Perfect. Well done. Very diplomatic. Julie Ahrens, I was there too. Yes, Julie was there. So there are our 5 of our 6. And finally, this one may surprise some of you, but I talked again with any number of you about this and will explain why. This is, I don't know how to pronounce her name because I don't speak Turkish. Pinar Koskuner Genç. Is that close, those of you who know her? Andrew, is that close?
I have no idea. Sorry. My Turkish is very limited.
Probably not as limited as mine. She is from Turkey. She was the overall principal race officer for all of the Olympics this year in Marseille.
Sailing.
For yacht racing, for sailing, yes.
Yeah.
It rankles me that we call it sailing.
Sorry.
No, but you're right, sailing. Olympic sailing. She made, this was a very difficult thing. Yes, she was also part of the problem to the extent that, she said, yeah, we can run it in Marseille. We'll figure out how to do it. But she wasn't the one making that decision. When she got tasked to go run the racing, and Claire can tell you how hard it is to run races because she's probably run more races than all the rest of us combined on here over the now many years that she was chair of the New York Yacht Club Race Committee and many others. And Andrew McIrvin has been the organizing authority chief and somehow herds the cats year after year after year in the IMA, the International Maxi Association. And to have somebody of her skill and talent, and when we all thought that Marseille was really going to be a complete, I hope you don't mind my saying, a balls up. We thought it was even going to be, and it wasn't very good because the weather was atrocious. Yeah. And she managed, despite the wind, the lack thereof, and everything else, she managed to pull together an amazing race management effort. The first woman to have been tasked, and I was wrong the other day when I said, there've been women PROs before in the Olympics. The late, great Helen Bedford from Mission Bay Yacht Club was one of the course chiefs during the 84 Olympics. She's the first one to be the overall race management boss, chief. And it's not only a lady, but she's from a country that is not often thought of as a major yacht racing power. And I was surprised how many people were strongly supportive of her as one of the final 6. Who wants to comment, if anyone, about this choice? Clara, let's go to you first, since you've done so much race management in your storied career.
Well, I really can't effectively comment because I don't know. I was not at the Olympics. I didn't. I know people who were race officers on individual circles, and so that's about all I can offer. Nothing more than that.
Okay, Andrew.
I'm the same. I mean, I know 3 of the people who were race officers on individual circles, but I don't know anything about this lady until Alistair brought her up because he was there.
And Alistair Murray, one of the big proponents of her. And as Alan Long is just saying, nor is it a country that promotes women.
That's true.
Good point. Graham, do you want to add to this?
I honestly don't know anything of her. I mean, I've only what I've been told by Alistair, and but it must have been a heck of a task. But to not know the details of that task, I really can't quote anything else on it.
Well, Julia, as you know, Alistair and John were both strongly in favor of her. Apparently, she is maybe not Wonder Woman, but right up there with her.
Yeah.
In terms of her skill and language skills and everything else. So I'm really happy that the gang have come to that conclusion. Those 6. So how do we proceed from here? We'll have some.
Can I point out?
Please.
Can I point out one thing, which is Magnus is also. I mean, Magnus is obviously he's a little bit. He's been working for them, but it is noticeable that New Zealand, who've just had the opportunity to hand out a few knighthoods for the New Year's honours list, and you would think that at least Burling and Dalton should have been knighted. I mean, if Russell Coutts has got knighted, I guess he must have got knighted before he did a runner to Switzerland, because he wasn't very popular after that.
He wasn't.
But that these two guys, I mean, winning the America's Cup 3 times. What else can these guys do? I guess it's because they took it out of New Zealand and upset a lot of local Kiwis. But the Kiwi support in Barcelona was amazing. About 700 Kiwis there, all fantastically supportive. And I think it's a small country. They don't have that many knights, and they were eminently suitable to be knighted, I would have thought.
Yeah, if you saw the column that his Magnus the Magnificence, his regular now posting on Substack, and a couple of days ago he noted that the honors list had come out for New Zealand, and there was no, he really would have expected one of these, either Burling or Dalton or maybe others.
Yeah.
But at least one of those two would have been knighted.
Yes.
I absolutely agree. Yeah.
You do agree. Okay, I'll remind you all of the voting list, and we'll talk. We're thinking about modifying the voting list a bit because we may want to open it up a bit. It's not a popularity contest, as Julie Aaron says. Grant ran the event in Barcelona. He put together the New Zealand team. He recruited Pete Burling for the team. So like him or hate him, his accomplishments can't be denied. I think, Julie, that's a really good summary of why he ended up being on our short list. Thank you. And we will we'll cover more of this because we're going to announce it on the 14th on our 800th show. God and the internet willing, we'll get to 800 on that day. Just Claire's noticing. She's texting me. Are you okay? You got a bit of a cold? Yeah, I do have a bit of a cold. Richard Gladwell had an article today where he said nominations for awards in NZ happened before the Olympics or the AC happened. Richard Gladwell. So that's an interesting point. Maybe that had some bearing on it, and maybe it's going to be next year. Claire?
Russell, you want to comment on Russell Coutts?
On anything. I thought you were...
No.
I have the Zoomers over here on another... I got enough screens in front of me to,
Keep an eye on everybody.
Keep on everybody. I got the Zoomers over here, so I thought you were giving me a wave, but maybe you were telling me to go to hell. I don't know.
You never know.
You never know. Okay, that's it. That is our Black Tie show. We've got, of course, the D block, and I've got a couple of these from you, so we got to get to these funnies, and I do have the cajon here in the studio now. Julia?
Yes.
We've got to show the cajon because it takes cojones to play the cajon, apparently. Actually,
especially sitting on it.
Since you sit on it, maybe your cojones get a bit rattled when you're doing that. I don't know. Oh, my God.
Stop.
Almost 2.5 hours in, we got the word Q is ironic. It's just a Q with a bunch of silent letters waiting in a line. Clean.
Yes.
That's clean for you Brits. It's clean. Okay.
We love queuing.
Say again?
Yeah, give them a chance. Well, the Brits, if they're two people, they'll queue.
You're so polite. Laura, if just like the Germans, if there's two people, they'll pass a law, make a rule, a regulation, having lived there for almost 10 years. Lori Fullerton, you all look so great. Happy New Year. Yep, indeed. Thank you. Finally, one more. That came from Arthur Peterson, by the way. This one And dedicated to all our friends in Great Britain and beyond. I added that. The graphics department added that. I hope we didn't misspell anything there. This came from Greg Phillips and Andrew Pindar. They must be watching the same joke site. After 50,000 gallons of whiskey leaked into the sea, no turn was left. No turn was left unstoned. Andrew Pindar and Greg Phillips. And since this is a drinking show with a sailing habit, not all of us drink, but nonetheless, I thought that was a good way to wrap this one up. And now I've got to do. Were you going to say something, Graham?
I was just thinking that Andrew Pindar must order his whiskey by the cargo load.
He does have it. Remember, how many other sailing shows or any shows, any podcasts have had a bar tour from one of their regulars, meaning Andrew? He gave us a tour, remember?
Yeah,
His cellar, didn't he? Yeah.
Cellar tour, yeah.
A cellar tour and his bar and his wine cellar. Okay. That gets us here to the final little bit here. Let me switch to another camera. Well, it's the same camera, but without the. This is dedicated. We dedicate to all of you, but particularly to Claire, who, if you weren't here at the top of the show, who sent me a personal harmonica.
That's a big harmonica.
It's this harmonica on a keychain. I don't know if you were on, Graham, when we did this. She sent that with a card that said, "Be prepared." In other words, she's a fabulous musician, much better than I, but she thinks, and we played All Lang Syne. I won't try that again. I was lucky that I got through the first time. But on my lap now, you can see the top of the box. Well, here it is. This is a cajon. And inside, there's a hole in the back. And there are some snares, as I mentioned. Let's see if you can hear this. There are some snares in there that if you tap it at the top, I don't know if you can hear the snares down at the bottom, it's a little boomier. And you sit on this thing. I'm not going to try to do that because that would be crotonic, but you sit on it with your cajon sitting right here. Maybe that's how it got its name, cajon. You sit on it right here, and you.
Will we be seeing you down Main Street, Tom?
Say again, Graham. Your cajon.
Will we be seeing you down Main Street?
No, I'm not a percussionist. I'll stick to the strings and now.
Some people are quite talented with that.
That is ridiculous.
Huh? It's good. Have you ever seen a gut string, a gut string bass, a bucket? We used to.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You put a bucket, a wash bucket on the floor, put a U-bolt in the middle of it and you put you put a gut string, a big long gut string, on it that goes up to a stick that's mounted on the side of the wash bucket, and by pulling it a little bit, you can get higher pitched, and you can do a pretty with that bucket upside down on the floor as a resonator. Boom, 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 boom. That's how I learned. I'm not kidding. That's how I learned to play bass on a gut string.
Was that an Appalachian?
Gut bucket. It was called.
Yeah.
Okay, we're 2.5 hours into this one. We've killed everything, including the jokes, including the gut bucket, including the harmonica, and the cajon, dedicated to Vice Commodore Claire Harrington. I want to thank the Zoomers for coming on. Thank you, Graham and Andrew. It's time for you guys to get celebrating. Thank you, Claire.
Oh, I can take my time.
May I make a toast?
Please.
I'd like to toast everyone. Happy New Year. Have a wonderful, healthy, happy 2025. But I especially want to toast to our host, Tom Eamon and Julia Wedekind, for stalwartly and constantly and loyally presenting this show for all of us. Tom is like the magnet for all of us sailors and everyone involved in the sport. Maybe more like the black hole of sailing. Sucks us all in. But thank you, Tom and Julia, for hosting all of us. It's been great.
Well done, both of you.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Mr. Doctor. And we appreciate it, and we appreciate everybody on here as we've now well and truly gotten to the finish line. Happy New Year to all of you. Julia, you can say...
Yes, be sure.
For the last time in 2024?
Yeah, be sure to like, follow, and especially share.
And comments are welcome too, even in replay. Thank you for all of your support. And we will see you on the other side. This Friday will be our 9th year of doing this amazing thing. And of course, it's without the Fozzie, there would be no.
It is because
show.
of the Fozzie that it happens.
Exactly right. So all of you who do support us, we appreciate it. And as usual, those who gave us audio, video, and images for today's show, we appreciate you as well. Ted Ryman, great last show of the year. Thanks to everybody. Bravo Zulu to the Zoomers. Good way to wrap it up. Happy New Year to all. That's from Ted Ryman. I'm sure everybody in the chat echoes that, including Chris Exley and Mark Holland and everyone else. Thank you, everybody. Have a great New Year's Day, if that's where you are. Have a great New Year's evening, the rest of your evening. And to the Zoomers, thank you very much. And everybody else, we'll see you on Friday for 2025. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.